Chapter 488. When it was almost mealtime, Yang Qing tried his best to chase Kristen out of the house. If he allowed this woman to say a bunch of things to his family, he would be despised again. Yang Qing did not want his already low status in the family to suffer another setback. Of course, Guoshuahua nagged at him for sending the guests away, but Yang Qing was used to it. Blood was thicker than water. Although there used to be a lot of estrangement between them, they gradually got used to it after spending time together. The family sat down and was about to eat. Yang Qing was surprised to find that Lin Ruoshi was not at the table. Normally, Lin Ruoshi would be at home for dinner at this time. After all, she rarely went out to socialize. He thought that his wife was working upstairs, but now it seemed that it was not the case. "Mom, where is Ruoshi?" Yang Qing could not help but ask. Usually, Lin Ruoshi's routine of leaving early and returning late was very stable, so Yang Qing wasn't too worried about it. However, he was rather anxious that she didn't come home for dinner this time. To put it bluntly, Lin Ruoshi was a super beautiful rich lady with billions of assets. If it wasn't for the fact that she kept a low profile, it was normal for her to appear in the newspaper every 2 or 3 days. How could she disappear just like that? Guoshuahua and Mother Wang looked at each other with a smile and said, "I thought you only cared about eating. At least you have a conscience to remember that you have a wife?" Yang Qing was quite embarrassed. Usually at home, because of Lin Ruoshi's coldness, he would not take the initiative to say anything. It seemed that the elders did not mention it, but it did not mean that they were satisfied with this situation. Moreover, the two of them slept in separate rooms. "How could I forget that?" Yang Qing said. "Young master, Miss just called. It seems that she has something important to do tomorrow. She doesn't have much time to work, so she has to work overtime today to finish some documents. She will not be home for dinner." Mother Wang said with a smile. Yang Qing frowned. "Then when did she say she will be back? Is she going to sleep in the office all night?" Mother Wang shook her head awkwardly. "This, no one knows. Miss has always been so stubborn. No one can stop her. This daughter-in-law of mine is easy to talk to about other things, but she's too hard-working when it comes to work. No one can persuade her otherwise." Guoshuahua had gotten to know Lin Ruoshi's temper during this period of time. She was helpless about her lifestyle. Yang Qing pouted. He picked up the bowl and started to move his chopstick. While eating, he said, "If that's the case, Wang Ma, prepare some food later. I'll send it to Ruoshi. Since she didn't say what time she'll be back, she must be staying up late." Mother Wang seemed to have expected that Yang Qing would say this. She smiled and said, "The food is ready. Since young master is going to send it, of course it is for the best. Miss will be very happy." Zhenxiu, who was nibbling on a chicken wing, giggled and said, "No way. Sister Ruoshi will be very depressed." Yang Qing rolled his eyes. Did she need to say this out loud? It would be embarrassing for everyone. In any case, the matter was settled. After eating in big bites, Yang Qing took the thermal cutlery from Mother Wang and went out to the headquarters of Yulei International. Although it was after work, there were still people from the security department patrolling the building of Yulei International. However, Yang Qing was a familiar face. Although the security guards were puzzled as to why Director Yang would bring supper to the company in the middle of the night, they did not ask much. He took the elevator all the way to the top floor and arrived at the door of Lin Ruoshi's office. It was rare that he did not have to go through the interrogation of Wu Yu's cold-faced assistant. Yang Qing felt that his speed was much faster. Knock, knock. Yang Qing knocked on the door. Without waiting for a reply, he pushed open the thick dark red wooden door. The spacious office was clean and fresh as always. The air was filled with a faint fragrance, mixed with the smell of high-quality sandalwood. It was even more charming. At this moment, the only light in the office was a long light yellow table lamp on the big mahogany desk. The bright light spread throughout the entire office, making it rather dim, hazy, and cold. Lin Ruoshi, who was originally immersed in her work, held a pen in her hand. At this time, because she heard the knock on the door, she had already raised her head. Her beautiful hair was not tied up like it was in the daytime. It was a little messy, which set off the woman's beautiful face that was full of tiredness at the moment. The spring night was always not warm. Lin Ruoshi, who had been sitting for a whole day, also felt cold. In addition to a white lady's shirt, she also wore a black dress jacket. Her figure was not petite, but showed a little delicate, which made people feel more pity for her. The only thing that did not change was in Lin Ruoshi's bright eyes. At this time, she was staring straight at Yang Qing, using her eyes to ask why he came. Yang Qing was not surprised by his wife's silence. He guessed that she was angry at him for disturbing her work. As for why he came, she didn't even want to know. Ruoshi babe, don't look at me like you're going to eat me. I'm here to deliver dinner with good intentions. Yang Qing smiled as he walked up and slowly placed the lunchbox on the desk. Lin Ruoshi looked at the many layers of the lunchbox and frowned. I already told Mother Wang not to eat, but she still delivered it. You're a woman. How can you not eat? If your body collapses, what's going to happen to you? Lay International. Yang Chen half-joked as he opened the lunchbox and took out some food from it. Don't take it out, I don't want to eat yet. Lin Ruoshi hurriedly stopped him. After I finish reading the documents here, I will eat by myself. You can put the food down and leave. Yang Qing glanced at the stack of documents in Lin Ruoshi's hand and said gloomily, It's just that stack of things, won't it be daybreak by the time you finish reading it? Aren't you clearly making my mission to deliver food fail? No, you have to eat immediately. I'll watch you finish eating. Saying that, Yang Qing couldn't be bothered with Lin Ruoshi's obstruction. He minded his own business and took out 4 side dishes, a bowl of soup, and even a bowl of rice, taking up a large space on the desk. In an instant, Lin Ruoshi's neat desk became half a dining table. The air was filled with the rich smell of food, stimulating one's appetite. Lin Ruoshi had a headache. This man had always done things his own way. On the surface, he seemed to be afraid of her, but when it came to matters, he was the one making the decisions and wouldn't listen to anyone. If I don't finish reading these things, I won't be in the mood to eat. Leave the food here and go. Lin Ruoshi shook her head weakly and lowered her head to continue reading the documents. Yang Qing already knew that this woman wouldn't be so obedient. He snorted and walked to Lin Ruoshi's side, snatching the stack of papers from her hand. What are you doing? Lin Ruoshi turned around angrily and raised her head to look at Yang Qing hatefully. On her beautiful face, the originally pale complexion had a hint of red caused by anger. She was already upset about work, and at this moment, she was not in the mood to eat at all. It was fine if this man didn't help her, but she couldn't blame him for bringing her food. Could it be that she had to do whatever he said? Yang Qing looked at Lin Ruoshi's cold face and smiled. It's nothing, I just thought since you can't put these things down yourself, I'll help you keep them, then you can only eat first. Why should I listen to you? Lin Ruoshi asked angrily. Yang Qing chuckled. Of course you have to listen to me. Who asked me to be your husband? Humph, what a joke. Lin Ruoshi glanced at Yang Qing disdainfully. I wonder who's the one who fooled around with other women all day long. He doesn't care about his identity at all. Why did he suddenly change his mind today? Why don't you just accompany those vixens of yours? Why do you have to worry about me eating? It's not like I'll starve to death. Yang Qing rubbed his chin with his left hand and said with a stiff smile, How can you say that? I've always been concerned about my Ruoshi baby. How can other women compare to you? You're the real wife who got married with me. I don't care. Lin Ruoshi gritted her teeth. Return the documents to me and leave immediately. I'll pretend that nothing happened. Yang Qing's expression turned serious. No, I've told you many times you can't work so hard. No matter if you want to stay up all night or not, you have to eat first. I won't allow you to abuse yourself like this. You! Lin Ruoshi pointed at Yang Qing, wanting to say something, but when she thought about Yang Cheng's thick skin, she felt that it was useless. Yang Cheng looked at Lin Ruoxi's angry look. The icy beauty's charming appearance was truly charming. The corner of his mouth curled into an evil smile. After pretending to think for a moment, he bent down and said gently, "Baby, how about this? If you promise me one thing, I won't care if you eat or not, and I'll go home immediately." Lin Ruoxi sneered. "Why should I promise you something? It's not like I owe you anything. The last time I asked you to borrow money, I promised you that I wouldn't bother with your lovers for a year and get along peacefully. I've already done it. Whether it's Qiangwei or Anshin, I've always been polite. Don't you think you're cruel? You keep saying that you're my husband, but this is how you treat your husband? What else do you want me to promise you this time? Just because I don't want to eat and I want to work, what do you want me to promise you? You might as well divorce me." The woman's clear words were like drops of icy rain falling in the air. Chapter 489. The series of words sounded ordinary, but it caused the smiling Yang Cheng to be completely stunned. He was silent for a long time, his face filled with bitterness and helplessness. "It's my fault. I know I'm shameless." Yang Chen let out a self-deprecating laugh before raising his head. "I know you feel wronged, so there's no way I'll divorce you. I'll definitely make it up to you. I'll make it up to you and give you more happiness." "Happiness? I don't need it. As long as you don't bother me, I will be satisfied." Lin Ruoxi sneered, her eyes slightly sparkling. Yang Qing shook his head. "No, I will compensate you. I will treat you well, but you have to eat now. These are two different things." You scoundrel!" Lin Ruoxi was furious. In the end, she was still so stubborn. Yang Qing shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile, "How about this? If you kiss me, baby Ruoxi, I'll leave immediately. I won't ask you to eat immediately." Hearing this, Lin Ruoxi's pretty face immediately flushed red. Her gaze flickered as she gnashed her teeth and said, "Why? What's the difference between this and extortion?" TSK, a wife kissing her husband, what kind of extortion is this?" Yang Qing curled his lips and shook his head as he sighed. "This is extortion," Lin Ruoxi said word by word. Yang Qing scratched the back of his head and said, "All right then, you can eat immediately and kiss me. Between these two, which one will you choose?" Why do I have to make such an unfair choice?" Lin Ruoxi felt a headache coming on. Why was this person so baffling? Yang Qing didn't say a word. He held onto the back of Lin Ruoxi's swivel chair with one hand and the desk with the other. He bent down and pressed his face against Lin Ruoxi's face. Lin Ruoxi panicked when she felt Yang Qing suddenly move closer to her. Her cheeks blushed, and her watery eyes widened as her breathing quickened. What are you going to do? Don't mess around," Lin Ruoxi hurriedly said. She averted her eyes and turned her head to the other side, trying not to get close to Yang Qing. After a certain distance, Yang Qing didn't get any closer. Instead, he quietly looked at Lin Ruoxi's side profile. That sparkling white skin, that exquisite outline under the dim light, was indescribably beautiful. "Ruoxi, we've known each other for almost a year." Yang Chen seemed to be clueless as he mumbled the question. Lin Ruoxi felt that her heart was about to jump out of her throat, but she didn't reply. At this moment, the man's breath was on her cheek, and it was slightly itchy. "I can see it clearly today. Your side profile is just like your front, it's really beautiful. Especially when the light shines on your side profile, the lines are really perfect," Yang Qing said with a faint smile. The back of Lin Ruoxi's ears were a little hot. She didn't know what she was feeling when a man praised her appearance so directly at such a close distance. She didn't know how she felt in her heart, but she couldn't explain it clearly. After a long time, Yang Qing chuckled as if he had thought of something interesting. Lin Ruoxi couldn't help but ask in a low voice, What are you laughing at?" "I'm thinking, if you don't want to kiss me, there are actually other conditions that can be exchanged." Yang Qing said thoughtfully. Lin Ruoshi, who had her head lowered, bit her bright red lips. She didn't ask anything, but it was obvious that she wanted to listen. For some reason, she was actually looking forward to it. Yang Qing's gaze became incomparably gentle, as if immersed in a haze. He opened his mouth and guessed, "Dear, tell me, do you want to eat or kiss me? Or, do you want to eat or sleep with me? Or, do you want to eat dinner? Or, do you want to have a child with me? Ruoshi, do you want to eat dinner, or, do you want to grow old with me?" Silence, the silence of a pin drop could be heard. Time seemed to freeze in an instant, and the air in the office was so heavy that people couldn't breathe. Lin Ruoshi couldn't hear anything else, and the only thing that kept echoing in her mind was "be with me, grow old with me, have a child? Grow old together? What's wrong with this man's brain? What does this have to do with eating an ordinary dinner? Also, who wants to sleep with him?" Lin Ruoshi suddenly stood up from her seat, turned around, and didn't look at Yang Qing. With one hand on her chest, she was worried that her heart was beating wildly. Her other hand seemed to inadvertently touch the corner of her eyes, wiping away the moisture. After a while, she calmed down and said, "Are you crazy? No, you're a lunatic to begin with. I can't be bothered to lower myself to your level. Isn't it just a meal? Why are you talking so much nonsense?" After Lin Ruoshi finished speaking, she lowered her head and didn't look at Yang Qing's strange smile. She silently walked to the food, picked up the bowl of rice with one hand, and picked up the chopsticks with the other, and ate in small bites. "If you want to eat, then eat. Don't say those disgusting words," Lin Ruoshi returned to her expressionless face and said coldly. Yang Qing didn't say anything. He slowly sat on Lin Ruoshi's big leather chair, raised his head, and looked at the woman in front of him eating slowly. Lin Ruoshi felt Yang Qing's gaze fixated on her face. She almost blushed again. She felt a mixture of sourness and sweetness in her heart. She didn't know what was in her mouth at all. All she wanted to do was finish it quickly, fill her stomach, and forget about the existence of this man in the room. But the faster she ate, the more careless the problem occurred. Lin Ruoshi suddenly realized that she was choking. She put down the bowl and chopsticks and patted her chest, but it didn't work. She suddenly had a painful expression, and her eyebrows were knitted. "Drink some soup, silly. Who asked you to eat so fast?" Yang Qing stood up and scooped some soup into Lin Ruoshi's bowl. Lin Ruoshi rolled her eyes at Yang Qing, and drank a few mouthfuls of soup before she finally calmed down. Her face was red with embarrassment, but this matter made her not so nervous anymore, and she calmly relaxed. "You're the silly one." Lin Ruoshi was unhappy that Yang Qing said she was silly. Yang Qing laughed and said, "Silly, when I said you were silly, I didn't mean you were silly, I meant you were cute." Cute? Ever since she was young, Lin Ruoshi had never heard anyone describe her in such a way. She couldn't accept it, and could only roll her eyes at Yang Qing. She ignored Yang Qing and continued eating. In fact, Lin Ruoshi was indeed hungry after working for half a day, but she wasn't in the mood to eat because she was too preoccupied with work. Now that she couldn't work, her appetite was stimulated, and this little bit wasn't enough. When they were almost done eating, Lin Ruoshi recalled something and said, "Yu Yonhee's concert in Zhonghai will be held tomorrow night. After all, she's a superstar that we're collaborating with. You and I have to go to her concert." Yang Qing was stunned and he raised his brows. "What? That woman's concert? Isn't she going against us? Why should we go to her concert? It's better if she screws it up." Lin Ruoshi glanced at Yang Qing helplessly. "It's one thing for her to go against us, but we still have to give her some face. As businessmen, no matter how much we hate each other, it won't be wrong for us to be friendly on the surface as long as we can make use of each other. Furthermore, Yu Yonhee's background and her management company aren't ordinary people. We can't ignore her just because she doesn't get along with us. We're just going to be there, and we can just slip away when the concert starts." Yang Qing knew that Lin Ruoshi was right. From a business point of view, There wasn't a need to stoop to Yu Yonhee's level. Alright, we'll go if you say so. I'll listen to my wife. Yang Qing chuckled. Lin Ruoshi saw that he wasn't being serious again, so she could only pretend that she didn't see anything. After eating for a while, Lin Ruoshi seemed to have made up her mind and said, I'll go with you to Paris in a few days. What? Yang Qing thought that he had misheard. I said, I'll go with you to the Paris Fashion Week, Lin Ruoshi said softly, seemingly unwilling. I thought about it just now, and I'm still worried that you'll mess it up and ruin our company's reputation. I'm worried, so I'll go with you. Otherwise, you might cause trouble again if there's no one to watch over you. Yang Qing chuckled and said happily, If you want to go on a sweet vacation with your hubby, just say it. Paris is indeed a good place to go, and there's no need for it to be related to work. I understand. Actually, Ruoshi babe likes me a lot. Lin Ruoshi was exasperated. This guy was too thick-skinned. What was more annoying was that he was acting like a villain intoxicated by success. How did I end up with such a person as my husband? As she sighed in her heart, her stomach was bloated and she couldn't eat at all. I'm full. Go away, I have to work, Lin Ruoshi said as she put down her bowl and chopsticks. You're full already? Eat more, there's still a lot of meat. Yang Qing said as he pointed at the dishes on the plate. Lin Ruoshi narrowed her eyes, which were filled with an ice-cold chill. Yang Qing felt uncomfortable all over and smiled stiffly. He had no choice but to stand up from his chair and let Lin Ruoshi sit. At the same time, he walked to the table and cleaned up the bowls and chopstick. Lin Ruoshi sat back on the chair and took back the document that was snatched away by Yang Qing. She began to read it seriously again, instantly throwing Yang Qing to the side and ignoring him. Yang Qing sighed slightly and smiled. After cleaning up the cutlery, he quietly left the office. He also knew that if he continued to disturb her, Lin Ruoshi would really get angry. Fortunately, the woman had already eaten, so he had nothing to worry about. At least she wouldn't be hungry. When the office door closed, the room became quiet again. The series of events that had just happened was like a dream. After a long time, Lin Ruoshi raised her head and looked at the closed office door with her limpid eyes. She was lost in thought. Chapter 490. When Yang Qing returned home after delivering supper, he saw Guoshuahua and Mother Wang sitting on the sofa in the living room as soon as he entered the living room. When they saw Yang Qing, they stood up together. How is it? Did Ruoshi say anything? Guoshuahua seemed to be a little anxious as she asked. Looking at his mother's eager eyes, Yang Qing smiled. It seemed that the two of them thought that the Ice Queen would really treat him differently after he delivered supper. If that was the case, then this Ice Queen would be too weak. Nothing much. She just casually talked about it and ate some before continuing to work. It seems like there's a lot of work to do, and I might have to stay up late. Yang Qing smiled. Guoshuahua and Mother Wang looked at each other and saw disappointment and helplessness in each other's eyes. It's good that you ate it. Mrs. really too much. She can't do anything but always makes life difficult for her body, Mother Wang said vaguely. Young master, you don't have to be discouraged. Miss will know that you're good to her sooner or later. Yang Qing laughed. I'm not discouraged. We're already an old married couple. What's the point of talking about that? Old married couple? Guoshuahua rolled her eyes at her son. You're not serious. You've only been married for less than a year. What are you talking about? I'm just joking. Yang Qin blinked his eyes before walking upstairs. He said, Oh yeah, Ruoshi said she's going to France for a business trip with me in a few days. It might be a little long, but there shouldn't be any problems at home, right? What? Miss is going on a business trip with young master? Mother Wang seemed to be surprised. She smiled and said, Of course. Young master, you can bring Miss around and have fun. When old madam was still around, Miss still had time to go out. In recent years, she has been in Zhonghai almost all the time. She can only take a holiday at the end of the year. You have us at home. Zhenxiu and Huilin are sensible children. There's nothing to worry about. Yang Qing nodded and sighed in his heart. At least give the elders some hope. Although going to Paris, the romantic capital, with a woman like Lin Ruoxi might not be romantic. If there was a woman in the world that could make him feel helpless, it would be the one who was closest to him. The next day, Yang Qing finished discussing some matters with his two assistants, Zhao Ting and Wang Jie, in the company. He roughly arranged the closing steps for Star of Yulei after he went to France. The next step was actually very clear. He would turn Huilin, who had already won the crown, into a new generation of popular domestic singers like Hua Xia. The specific production of the album and the publicity work would be handled by the company's team. There was no need for Yang Qing to worry about it. The most important thing was to protect Huilin. After all, Huilin was innocent and kind. She was immersed in the complicated entertainment industry. Accidents were bound to happen. Yang Qing was very worried about the arranged manager and assistants. Fortunately, Zhao Ting and Wang Jie were experienced. They designed everything that Yang Qing wanted to do perfectly. Therefore, Yang Qing didn't delay the meeting and left early. When Anxin found out that Yang Qing was going to leave Zhonghai for a period of time, and that he was going to Paris with Lin Ruoxi, she was a little jealous. However, in order not to appear jealous, this naughty woman still wrote a shopping list and placed it in front of Yang Qing. "What's this?" Yang Qing picked up the entire A4 paper that Anxin handed over. There were a lot of brands that he didn't recognize on it. It was a dazzling sight. Anxin leaned on the office desk, revealing her perfect curve. She said in a lazy voice, "Gifts for me? I might not be able to buy all of them, but at least a few of them." Yang Qing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why do I feel sour when I hear this? Regardless of whether it was the Yin family in the past or now that it's one of the top families in Zhonghai, as the only daughter of the Yin family, do you really lack these things? Just tell me if you need anything, I'll buy it for you right now. No way, I'll only show my sincerity if I bring it back from Paris, Anxin pouted. Yang Qing grabbed the woman's hand and gently pulled Anxin onto his lap. He hugged this fragrant uniformed beauty and laughed. "Babe Anxin, aren't you messing with me on purpose? I'm going to buy these women's things, but instead of giving them to Ruoxi, I brought them all the way back to Zhonghai. Isn't this clearly provoking Ruoxi's bottom line?" Anxin curled her lips and pretended not to hear anything. Yang Qing shook his head and kissed Anxin's delicate white cheek. "Don't throw a tantrum, I know you're not an unreasonable woman. Actually, Ruoxi has already endured for a long time. You have to be content. I'm not someone who abandons you after using you. I brought you all the way back from Hokkaido, are you still worried that I won't love you?" Anxin blinked her big eyes. How could she not know what was going on? She sighed. A woman's heart was always against herself. Hugging Yang Qing's neck, Anxin murmured, "Then come back soon. Otherwise, I'll fly to Paris to look for you guys when I'm lonely. I'm very familiar with Paris anyway. I used to go there when I was a flight attendant." All right. Yang Qing helplessly patted the woman's back and comforted her. After work, Yang Qing left the company on time. After all, he had promised to go to Yu Yonhe's concert with Lin Ruoxi. Lin Ruoxi's personality wouldn't allow her to be late. Yu Yonhe's concert was much grander than Yang Qing had imagined. Although he didn't want to admit it, this South Korean woman did have an extraordinary charm. The advertisements for the past few days had taken up a lot of space to promote her first concert with Hua Xia. According to their previous appointment, Yang Qing drove into the car park of Yulei International's headquarters. When he arrived at the place where Lin Ruoxi parked her car, he saw Lin Ruoxi waiting for him with her assistant, Wu Yu. Lin Ruoxi stood there with an indifferent expression. Even if she was going to a concert and was going to meet the glamorous Yu Yonhe, she didn't put on any special makeup. In the dimly lit car park, she looked like a slender and elegant sculpture. Compared to Wu Yu, who seemed to be a little impatient, she didn't seem to exist in this world. The flat-chested Wu Yu didn't have a good expression towards Yang Qin as usual. It could be assumed that in this woman's eyes, no matter what position Yang Qin held, he would always be a bad man who conspired against her superior. "Why are you here so late? Don't you know that our General Lin's time is precious?" Wu Yu snorted in dissatisfaction. Yang Qing wasn't bothered by it and joked, "So the flat princess is here as well? Aren't you going to have a date with your vice president Li?" The vice president Li that Yang Qing was talking about was naturally Li Mingyi, who was sent over by Hong Kong's Moon. Yang Qing didn't think that Lin Ruoxi wouldn't be able to notice the ambiguous relationship between Wu Yu and Li Mingyi, since he had already noticed it. Wu Yu's face instantly turned red as she glared at Yang Qing and turned her head away. "I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't matter as long as I know." Yang Qing found it interesting. No matter how cold a woman was, she would always be bashful when it came to love. Lin Ruoxi knitted her brows and turned to Wu Yu. "Wu Yu, you don't have to go tonight. Yang Qing will accompany me." Wu Yu was stunned as she asked in shock, "Why? General Lin, didn't we agree that I would accompany you?" "I changed my plan at the last minute," Lin Ruoxi said indifferently and straightforwardly. Wu Yu seemed to be filled with grievance, but Lin Ruoxi's cold gaze made her unable to say anything else. She could only bite her lips and said, "Yes." After Wu Yu left, Yang Qing sat in Lin Ruoxi's Bentley. He fastened his seatbelt and asked, "Why did you suddenly change your plan?" "Actually, it's not a bad idea to ask little Wu along. At least it can be considered a form of support from the business." Lin Ruoxi started the car and slowly drove out of the parking lot. She then softly said, "I don't like to hear you bicker with her." Yang Qing was speechless. What a straightforward answer. 10 minutes later, the car entered the highway. Yang Qing initially thought that Lin Ruoxi would be the same as before, silently driving to the destination. But he never thought that this mysterious woman would lightly say, "You don't call me Wu Yu in the future." Yang Qing couldn't react in time. "Wu Yu is my junior sister. She sometimes imitates me and seems to be cold, but it's not that she doesn't care about her figure. Also, pretend that you don't know about the matter between her and Vice President Li," Lin Ruoxi said. Yang Qing was stunned for a long time before he grinned and laughed. "I've never thought that my babe Ruoxi is a cold-blooded and heartless woman. But I've just realized that your heart isn't ordinary. If Wu Yu hears this and knows that you're secretly concerned about her, I believe that your cold and heartless image in her eyes will be ruined." A faint blush flashed on Lin Ruoxi's face. She felt a little uncomfortable when she heard Yang Qing calling her a cold-blooded and heartless woman, even if she didn't say it out loud. However, Yang Qing wasn't in a hurry. He knew that Lin Ruoxi must have treated him as someone close to her to be able to say those words to his face. After all, it's something that she's hiding under her cold exterior. If he continued to tease her, then he might anger Lin Ruoxi. 10 odd minutes later, the vehicle slowly entered the Zhonghai Sports Center where Yu Yonhe's concert would be held. The venue could accommodate over 30,000 people, but it was already packed with fanatical fans. Lin Ruoxi seemed to have already established a connection with the organizers. Under the escort of a group of armed police, the vehicle passed through a special passage and entered the venue behind the sports center. After getting out of the vehicle, Yang Qing shook his head. He was dazed by the flashing lights along the way and said, "That woman's style is pretty impressive. I really couldn't tell that so many people like her." Rolling her eyes, Lin Ruoxi replied, "Since Yu Yonhe can enter the Grammy Awards and compete with your friend, Ms. Kristen, for Best Album, then there's no doubt about her ability. It's impossible for her to reveal her private character to the public, so it won't affect her. As the director of an entertainment company, haven't you studied the current situation in the international entertainment industry?" Scratching his head, Yang Qing smiled. It's not like you don't know that your husband only knows how to play games at work. How would I know anything else? Hearing Yang Cheng's shameless words, Lin Ruoshi felt her head aching again. But fortunately, she had already experienced a lot of stimulation. In the blink of an eye, she signaled for Yang Cheng to follow her into the backstage. At this moment, there were many security guards standing in the backstage. If it wasn't for Lin Ruoshi producing her identification, the security guards wouldn't give them any face, even if the two of them came in a luxurious car. In the long passage, Lin Ruoshi took the initiative to explain to Yang Cheng. Most of the singers in South Korea have undergone strict training in music and dance since young. Many of them spent nearly a decade before they could debut. So in terms of singing and dancing, they're better than some of our artists in Hwaseong. It's said that Yu Yeonhee has an extraordinary background, and her appearance is also outstanding in South Korea. But if it wasn't for her unique singing and dancing style, it's impossible for her to become a world-class diva in just a few years. So it doesn't matter if you hate her or not, but it's best not to fall out with her. It's not about whether you're afraid of her, but her influence is too great, and it will cause too much trouble. Yang Cheng knew that Lin Ruoshi was worried that he would fall out with Yu Yeonhee, which was why she was trying so hard to explain. Yang Cheng couldn't help smiling. Since my wife is telling me this, how would I dare to act recklessly? Lin Ruoshi inwardly sighed in relief. Truth be told, the reason why she brought Yang Cheng along was that she hoped to ease the conflict between Yang Cheng and Yu Yeonhee. Even if she knew that Yu Yeonhee definitely didn't have a good impression of the two of them, it would at least ease the enmity between her and Yu Yeonhee. However, there was another matter that flashed in Yang Cheng's mind at the same time. It was the scene of Yu Yeonhee and Park Jong-eun quarreling outside their house. According to Lin Ruoshi, it was true that Yu Yeonhee had an extraordinary background. Then, could Yu Yeonhee be related to Park Jong-eun's Star Moon group? If that was true, could it be that Yu Yeonhee was related to that last Jinshyo? For some reason, Yang Cheng felt that there were many things that were worth pondering about. But there were too few clues, so he couldn't think of anything. Just when he was pondering about it, the two of them arrived at Yu Yeonhee's VIP dressing room. Chapter 491. The bodyguards outside had seen Lin Ruoshi and Yang Cheng before. Hence, they did not stop them from entering and nodded their heads before opening the door for the two of them to enter. Waiting for Lin Ruoshi to enter the door, Yang Cheng hesitated for a while, then took out the crumpled pack of cigarettes that he usually smoked from his shirt pocket. Looking at his inventory, he happily took out the only 2 cigarettes he had, and handed them to the 2 bodyguards, one in each hand. Brothers, you've worked hard. Guarding the door isn't an easy job. Have a cigarette and relax. Yang Cheng smiled as he spoke in Korean. It wasn't that the 2 bodyguards had never seen others handing cigarettes over, but this was the first time they had seen someone handing them such inferior quality cigarette. However, they couldn't reject it out of courtesy. Hence, they could only put on a bitter expression as they accepted the 2 cigarettes and forced a smile as they thanked Lin Ruoshi. Lin Ruoshi was still wondering what Yang Cheng was doing by the door. When she turned around and saw this scene, she instantly had the urge to shove this thick-skinned fellow into a hole. What are you doing? Lin Ruoshi couldn't help but glare at Yang Cheng with a frosty expression. Ah! Yang Cheng innocently exclaimed before he explained. Didn't you say that you wanted to build a good relationship with Yu Yeonhee? I wanted to start from the basics and build a good relationship with her bodyguard. That's why I gave her 2 cigarettes. If I knew this would happen, I would have bought 2 more packs. I wouldn't be able to smoke anymore after giving them 2. Looking at Yang Cheng's depressed expression, Lin Ruoshi had no idea how to communicate with this alien. She could only take a deep breath to calm herself down before turning around and walking in. Yang Cheng helplessly rubbed his nose. He couldn't be blamed for this. Who asked him to only have such cheap goods? But he couldn't look down on public consumption, right? However, he still quickly followed after her. After bypassing a barrier, the two of them finally saw the star of the concert, Yu Yeonhee. Sitting in front of the mirror, Yu Yonhee was getting her hair done by a hairstylist. Although her black hair seemed to be tied up in a simple fashion, she had put in a lot of effort into it. She wanted it to look fashionable, yet casual and simple. Many staff members were busy walking back and forth at the back, contacting the stage staff in front. No one paid too much attention to the entrance of Yang Qing and Lin Ruoshi. When Yu Yonhee saw Lin Ruoshi and Yang Qing in the mirror, she waved her hand to signal the stylist to stop. After the hairdresser left, Yu Yonhee stood up from her seat. She looked dazzling in her pink and white dance dress. Her snow-white shoulders, towering breasts, and supple legs were all works of art. Even if Yang Qing didn't have a good impression of this woman, he had to admit that if she didn't undergo plastic surgery, her natural beauty would be extraordinary. It was a pity that Lin Ruoshi didn't look any weaker in front of Yu Yonhee. She didn't have any makeup on. She was dressed in a traditional professional suit. Because of this, Yu Yonhee's attire looked pale and weak. When Yu Yonhee saw Lin Ruoshi, she naturally felt the difference between her and the woman in front of her. She was sensitive and felt uncomfortable, but she didn't show it. Instead, she showed a more relaxed attitude and walked up with a smile. My manager told me that Ulay International's General Lin and Director Yang will be here to support me. Although we had some unpleasantness between us, I would still like to thank the two of you for coming, Yu Yonhee said sweetly. Miss Yu, the misunderstanding between us isn't worth it. There will be many opportunities for us to work together in the future. As a sponsor, it's only right for us to be here, Lin Ruoshi said faintly as she turned around and signaled to Yang Qing with her eyes. Yang Qing smiled bitterly in his heart. However, he still went up and greeted Yu Yonhee. I wish the Heavenly Empress a successful performance. Yu Yonhee seemed to have gotten back at him. The corner of her lips rose and she smiled. I hope that Director Yang is sincere. Miss Yu, you must be joking. I've never been a hypocrite before, Yang Qing replied with a smile. Yu Yonhee's smile froze. Yang Chen's words obviously meant that he had no intention of taking back his words of sarcasm. However, with the concert around the corner, Yu Yonhee knew that it wasn't the time for her to waste her breath. She turned around and said to a female assistant beside her, Ying Li, bring me 3 glasses of champagne. The South Korean assistant, Ying Li, wore a black professional uniform. She had an average appearance and was extremely respectful to Yu Yonhee. She didn't even dare to raise her head. She immediately agreed and went to get the champagne. Although champagne is usually reserved for the celebration after the concert, I believe that the two of you won't be able to wait until then. So, I'd like to invite the two of you to have a drink now as a token of my appreciation for your visit, Yu Yonhee said with a smile. Although her words sounded nice, it was clear that she was implying that they should leave after they're done. Lin Ruoshi wasn't angered by Yu Yonhee's attitude. She only looked at Yang Qing worriedly. She initially thought that Yang Qing would be disgusted, but she never expected that Yang Qing would be thinking about something. Sensing Lin Ruoshi's questioning gaze, Yang Qing smiled and shook his head. Nothing much. I was just thinking that Miss Yu is really thoughtful. Although Lin Ruoshi didn't believe that Yang Qing was thinking about something like that, she didn't probe any further. Not long later, Ying Li came over with a tray with 3 glasses of champagne on it. The aroma permeated the surroundings. As the host, Yu Yonhee wanted to pick up a glass. However, she never expected that Yang Qing would reach for the glass first and snatched it away from Yu Yonhee's eyes. Hey, Miss Yu, this champagne is pretty good. Let me have a taste. Yang Qing took the glass without any hesitation and poured the champagne into his mouth. It's good that Director Yang likes it. Yu Yonhee knitted her brows. Putting down the empty glass, Yang Qing smiled. The taste is pretty good. Let me drink these 2 as well. Having said that, Yang Chen picked up the 2 glasses of champagne, 1 in each hand, and poured it into his mouth in front of the 2 women. Ying Li, who was standing at the side, finally raised her head when she saw this. Her ordinary face revealed a shocked expression. Lin Ruoshi, on the other hand, was rather annoyed. She didn't understand what was wrong with Yang Qin. They could have just finished the champagne and left immediately. It would have been considered as a courtesy visit. Did this man have to make things awkward? However, before Lin Ruoxi could ponder over it, Yang Qing suddenly revealed a pained expression. His facial features twisted together and his brows knitted together. His face turned pale. Arg! With a painful roar, Yang Qing suddenly held onto his abdomen. His eyes widened as he fell to the ground. The sudden change stunned Lin Ruoxi and Yu Yonhee. Yang Qing, who was fine a moment ago, was now trembling as he supported himself with both hands on the ground. It was as if he was possessed. Yang Qing. Lin Ruoxi was the first to snap out of it. She immediately squatted down. Due to her panic, her calm demeanor had long disappeared. At this moment, her face was pale and bloodless. Lin Ruoxi supported Yang Qing's body with both hands and asked anxiously, "Don't scare me. What's wrong?" Yang Qing raised his head with great difficulty. His eyes were bloodshot and his pale lips were trembling. He was panting as he said, "There's poison, champagne, clang, clang." A series of crisp sounds rang out as the tray in Ing Li's hands fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. At this moment, Ing Li's face was stiff and pale. She swallowed her saliva and couldn't say a word. Her body was trembling as if her soul had been sucked out. She was mumbling something but couldn't make a sound. The series of strange events finally attracted the attention of all the staff in the dressing room. Everyone was confused when they saw Yang Qing lying on the ground and the pale Ing Li. At the same time, they wanted to know what was going on. Yu Yonhee, who was in a daze, finally realized what was going on. She turned her head and looked at Ing Li. Her elegant face was instantly distorted. Slap. Yu Yonhee's slap caused Ing Li to fall to the ground. "Bitch! How dare you poison me?" Yu Yonhee had already forgotten to speak in Mandarin and started cursing in Korean. It was only then that everyone realized that Ing Li was the one who tried to poison someone. However, she didn't harm Yu Yonhee but the guest instead. Ing Li was dizzy from Yu Yonhee's slap. She covered her red face and wailed on the ground, "Miss Yu, I've let you down. If I didn't do that, my parents and my little brother would have been killed. Wah! Just because of that you followed that person's instructions and poisoned me. Do you know that if I die your entire family will be finished?" Yu Yonhee was burning with anger as she kicked Ing Li's chest. The heel of her high heels dealt a heavy blow to Ing Li's chest. Ing Li coughed out a mouthful of blood on the spot and was in so much pain that she couldn't speak. At this moment, the bodyguards outside finally rushed in. Seeing the chaos, they quickly chased the unrelated staff out of the dressing room and warned them not to speak a word. In reality, most of the people were scared out of their wit. Who would dare to disobey the bodyguard's warning? They were afraid that they would become the victim. After all, murder involved confidential information. Ing Li had already fainted from the pain after being kicked a few times by Yu Yonhee. Her body was covered in blood, and she was dragged to another room by a strong bodyguard. Just when Yu Yonhee calmed herself down and thought of the succor, Yang Qing, at the scene, she realized that Yang Qing had disappeared after drinking 3 cups of poisoned wine. "Are you looking for me?" Yu Yonhee heard Yang Qing's voice coming from behind her. She turned around and saw Yang Qing sitting on a dressing chair with a cheerful expression. He greeted her with a normal expression and didn't show any signs of being poisoned. Lin Ruoxi, who was on the verge of tears, was now standing beside Yang Qing with a stern expression. It was as if she couldn't wait to devour Yang Qing alive. She was infuriated. How did you? Didn't you?" Yu Yonhee was speechless. She thought that Yang Qing was already dead. After all, if it was a poison that wanted to kill her, there wouldn't be any time to save him. But why did it seem like she was hallucinating? The reason why I'm still alive isn't important. Yang Qing shook his finger and asked, "Miss Yu, I think you should be talking to us about who tried to kill you. After all, we nearly lost our lives with you." Chapter 492. Yu Yonhee's expression changed when she heard Yang Cheng's question. In the end, she snorted coldly and turned around. Although I don't know why you're fine, Director Yang, please leave since you're not dead. It's not safe here. Yang Cheng wasn't surprised by Yu Yonhee's reaction. He didn't expect her to tell the truth so easily either. His question was just a test. Standing up, Yang Cheng patted his butt and smiled. Since Miss Yu is so worried about our safety, we'll take our leave now. Take care, Miss Yu. Don't let such a small matter affect your mood. The concert still has to go on. This is your first concert in Huaxia. Don't end up with a refund. Oh, and don't forget to bring enough bodyguards. I don't need you to remind me, Yu Yonhee said in a low voice. Yang Cheng didn't ask any further and walked out of the dressing room. Lin Ruoxi bade farewell to Yu Yonhee politely and followed Yang Cheng in the direction they came from. As the two of them walked side by side, Lin Ruoxi's expression wasn't good. She had more or less sorted out her thoughts after everything that had happened. In a sense, Yang Chern had saved both her and Yu Yonhee's lives. Even if Yang Chern had acted like a movie where he magically knew that the champagne was poisoned and acted as though he was poisoned, nothing bad happened to them in the end. The assistant's performance had proven that the champagne was indeed poisoned. Everything had been directed by Yang Chern from the beginning to the end. Lin Ruoxi couldn't help but recall the scene of Yang Chern blocking a barbaric truck with his bare hands that night. The shocking scene was still vivid in her mind, and this time she saw another ability that was different from ordinary people. Why didn't you tell me in advance? Lin Ruoxi asked in a low voice. Yang Cheng was thinking about the inside story when he heard Lin Ruoxi's question. He was stunned for a moment before he replied, "Aren't I fine? Nothing? Besides you, who knows that you're fine?" Lin Ruoxi sneered. "Is it fun to scare me? Do you feel happy to see me cry?" Yang Cheng was stunned and speechless. He wanted to explain, but he didn't know where to start. Lin Ruoxi took it as Yang Cheng's tacit agreement. A trace of bitterness flashed in her eyes as she bit her lips and said, "I know that you're not ordinary, and I also know that you won't tell me everything. But if you think it's interesting to lie to me and scare me, then I have nothing to say. In your eyes, I'm just a substitute." Substitute? Yang Cheng was even more confused. He didn't know what Lin Ruoxi meant by this. He hurriedly asked, "Ruoxi, what's wrong with you? I admit that I'm sorry for putting on such a show just now, but time is pressing, and I don't have much time to explain. But why did you say that I treated you as a substitute? What do you mean?" Lin Ruoxi turned her head away, but she didn't want to say anything more. Her facial expression returned to the usual calmness, but it was even colder than before. Yang Cheng only felt a little depressed in his heart. He frowned and thought that he could only wait for Lin Ruoxi's anger to subside before explaining to her. All the way back to the car until the way home, Lin Ruoxi just treated Yang Cheng as air. She didn't say a word at all. Fortunately, Yang Cheng was also used to being silent. It was just that he couldn't understand this series of things in his mind, which made him quite depressed. Although he arrived home later than usual, he had told Mother Wang before, so he still made it in time for dinner. However, what made the two slightly puzzled was that there were guests at home. A black Audi and a white Porsche Cayenne quietly parked in front of the house. Yang Cheng subconsciously sensed it and was immediately puzzled. There were actually acquaintances at home who he couldn't figure out why. Lin Ruoxi didn't think much about it. She directly got out of the car, opened the door, and walked in. In the living room, at this time, there was a rich aroma of food, but the people at home weren't sitting at the dining table. Instead, they were sitting around the sofa in the living room, discussing something. Other than Guoxuehua, Mother Wang, and Jinxiu, there were familiar faces. Kristen actually came home diligently again. What made Lin Ruoxi happy was that Hui Lin, who had just finished yesterday's finals, also came home. Because of overtime and scheduling issues, although Lin Ruoxi knew that Hui Lin's finals were yesterday, she couldn't watch it live. She only watched some of the live broadcast and wanted to congratulate Hui Lin. However, Hui Lin couldn't return home for the whole night. However, the mature woman sitting quietly beside Hui Lin, Abbess Yun Miao, made Lin Ruoshi retract her smile. Ever since she knew that Lin Jigua had passed away, Lin Ruoshi thought that she wouldn't have anything to do with the other members of the Lin family other than Hui Lin. In fact, after receiving information about Ning Guangyao, she didn't even dare to think about her own identity. However, Abbess Yun Miao's reappearance caused many scars to surface in her heart. She stood at the door in a daze. Sensing the strange atmosphere, Guoshuahua smiled and stood up. She said warmly, "Ruoshi, you're back. Look, Madame Lin is here to visit Hui Lin. You two should have met before, right? It was Miss Kristen who sent Hui Lin home. If it wasn't for Miss Kristen, Hui Lin, the champion of the Star of Yulei, would still be surrounded by reporters." Kristen, who was as radiant as ever, chuckled. "Yang Qing and Miss Lin weren't at the finals yesterday, so I had no choice but to personally help Hui Lin. I'll also go to Miss Lin's house to have dinner. That shouldn't be too much, right?" At this moment, Yang Qing entered the house as well. When he saw the women in his house, he glanced at Kristen helplessly. Then, he smiled and walked to Hui Lin and Abbess Yun Miao. "Hui Lin's grandmother is here. What a rare guest. Did you come to congratulate Hui Lin for winning the championship?" Since Abbess Yun Miao was only the mistress of the Lin family in public, it wasn't appropriate to address her by her Taoist name. Abbess Yun Miao looked at Yang Qing and Lin Ruoshi with a complicated gaze. She said, "I'm going overseas to handle some matters, so I came to visit my only granddaughter before leaving. I didn't pay much attention to Hui Lin's participation in the competition. You know very well that I personally don't support Hui Lin taking this path." When Hui Lin heard Abbess Yun Miao's words, she lowered her head dejectedly, but didn't dare to say anything. Yang Qing pouted helplessly. This old Taoist nun really didn't know how to speak. He reached out and caressed Hui Lin's hair. "Why are you lowering your head? Isn't it just your grandmother who doesn't support you? Our whole family supports you. Don't you have countless fans now?" Hui Lin raised her head. She felt her cheeks burning after being caressed by Yang Qing in front of everyone, but her eyes were filled with gratitude. Her heart was warm, and her heart was beating faster nervously. Cough, cough. Abbess Yun Miao glared at Yang Qing angrily. "Who allowed you to caress my granddaughter's head so casually?" Yang Qing chuckled. "Don't be angry. She just needs encouragement." "Hui Lin isn't a child anymore," Abbess Yun Miao said solemnly. Yang Qing ignored her and sat on the other side of Hui Lin. He said, "I had some matters to attend to yesterday, so I only went to the TV station to check on the progress of the finals. You went out with the other two contestants to promote, so I didn't get to see you. At night, I sent dinner to your sister who likes to work overtime, and I didn't make it to the live broadcast, so I didn't get to cheer for you. But I'm very clear that with Hui Lin's strength, it'll be a piece of cake for you to clinch the championship." Hui Lin hurriedly shook her head and said softly, "It's fine. I know that Brother Yang and sister are very busy." Lin Ruoshi, who had been silent all this while, walked up and nodded at Kristen as a form of greeting. She then walked to Hui Lin and held Hui Lin's hand. She patted it lightly and smiled. "Sister wants to congratulate you too. Now we just have to wait for our Hui Lin to release her album and hold her concert." "Yeah." Hui Lin smiled sweetly. The gloominess in her heart from the blow she received from Abbess Yun Miao had dissipated. Abbess Yun Miao saw that Hui Lin and Lin Ruoshi were looking at each other as if they were biological sisters. The complicated emotions in her eyes deepened, and she sighed faintly. All right. The food is getting cold if we keep congratulating each other. Let's just eat and congratulate our future superstar." Mother Wang's face was filled with joy. After all, it was rare for the house to be so lively, and it happened to be a happy occasion. Kristen was the first to nod in agreement. She was the first to sit at the dining table, which made Yang Qing gloomy. He thought that this woman should hurry back to America. However, Abbess Yun Miao had no intention of sitting at the table. She said coldly, "I won't be eating. Other than meeting Huilin, I'm here to discuss something with Yang Qing." Yang Qing, who was about to sit at the table, stopped in his tracks. He smiled bitterly and said, "Granny Huilin, do you really have to pick mealtime to have a meeting with me?" Abbess Yun Miao didn't buy it. She walked straight to the door and said, "I'll wait for you in the courtyard." Yang Qing clenched his teeth and shook his head with a sigh. He gestured for the women to eat first, while he followed Abbess Yun Miao out to the courtyard. At this time, the sky outside was completely dark. The gray sky above the city made it impossible to see any stars. Only the white lights on the walls in the distance illuminated a small area. The courtyard was quiet. Other than the rustling of the grass and the wind, the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Abbess Yun Miao waited for Yang Qing to walk behind her. Without waiting for Yang Qing to speak, she said directly, "You'll be heading to Paris in a few days, right?" Yang Qing raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect Abbess Yun Miao to talk about this. However, he wasn't surprised that Abbess Yun Miao knew about it. After all, wherever he was, the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade would pay attention to it. He nodded without hesitation and said, "I have to attend the Paris Fashion Week in early April. Ruashi insisted that I go, so I can only pretend to know and talk to them about fashion." "Don't play dumb with me. Paris Fashion Week? What does that have to do with you? You're going to attend the meeting just like me. Do you think I don't know?" Abbess Yun Miao turned around and said unhappily, "Meeting?" Yang Qing was confused again. "What meeting?" Abbess Yun Miao saw that Yang Qing really seemed to be in a daze. It was only then that she realized something. She asked in disbelief, "You're really not going to attend this International Special Organization secret meeting?" Chapter 493. When he heard the words International Special Organization secret meeting, Yang Qing thought that he misheard. He laughed and said, "Are you kidding me, Abbess? I've never even heard of this something meeting. How am I supposed to participate? Moreover, from what you're saying, this should be an underground meeting between countries. I'm a thorn in the side of many national security organizations. How could they possibly let me go?" Abbess Yun Miao finally believed that Yang Qing really wasn't going to participate in the meeting. She hesitated for a while before saying, "This secret meeting could be said to be unprecedented in history. It's a gathering of spies, special forces, superpower organizations, as well as all sorts of official and unofficial organizations. Not all of them are national organizations. I thought that with your status, there would definitely be people who would try their best to invite you over. After all, the core of this meeting should be closely related to you." Hearing this, Yang Qing's interest was piqued. He asked, "What do you mean by closely related to me? I've been back in Huaxia for almost a year and a half. What could possibly be related to me?" "It's about God," Abbess Yun Miao said straightforwardly. Yang Qing's smile froze. After a while, he said, "God? What God?" The first thought that came to his mind was, could it be that Ares, that warmonger, had gotten bored of the Middle East and gone to Europe to fight, forcing these countries to work together to find a way to kill that bull? That can't be right. Ares wouldn't be so bored as to attack ordinary people. Moreover, his interest should be in finding God's stones, not causing destruction. Abbess Yun Miao's face was filled with helplessness. "It seems like you really don't know anything. I was hoping to understand more through you so that I can make some preparations. Although I don't know anything, if you tell me what you know, I might be able to analyze it for you." Yang Qing smiled. Abbess Yun Miao pondered for a while before saying, "Right now, Europe and America are actually in a state of panic. Although the news didn't spread much, everyone is preparing for war. The reason is a little strange. It's a god who calls himself Apollo. Paris, France, Rue Faubourg Saint-Hollore, Rue Élysée Arrondissement North, 55. Élysée Palace, Presidential Palace. The glow of the morning scattered on the green grass. Outside the wide floor-to-ceiling window of the president's office, on an ancient Chinese parasol tree, the new green leaves were dripping with crystal dew. A few patrolling soldiers straightened their backs and walked through the cold path. Their solemn expressions did not match the elegant scenery around them. This was the core of France's power. As a traditional power in Europe since ancient times, the peace and tranquility of this land did not mean that the world hidden below was really so. Bang! Bang! The sound of porcelain breaking came from the president's office, directly breaking the tranquility of the morning. The exquisite, colorful, flower-patterned white porcelain was smashed onto the thick pine wood floor, breaking into pieces of sad little pieces. After rolling a few times with a moan, it completely bid farewell to the world. The man standing in front of the wide mahogany desk was wearing a white shirt. The red tie on his chest was a little crooked, and he didn't have the time to tidy it up. He had a head of black-gray curls combed behind his head, and a mature face with a slight beard. He wasn't tall, but his shoulders were broad, and he had a dignified and ruthless aura. Smashing the priceless porcelain cup in his hand didn't make the man feel any better. He seemed to have not slept well all night. His eyes were bloodshot and his gaze was cold. "General Depnay, I need an explanation. What is going on?" The man picked up a black envelope from the desk. On the envelope was a totem of a gold-plated sun with complicated lines. The man known as Depnay was currently trembling in the direction of the door. He was short and wore a neat green military uniform, and the stars on his shoulders indicated his noble rank of general. The middle-aged man had a head of brown curly hair, and his skin was sickly pale. His cheeks were slightly protruding, and his facial features were a little sunken. Compared to the questioning man's face, Depnay looked like a pitiful pug. Mr. President, we are already investigating closely. We believe that the source of Apollo's threatening letter will have results very soon." Depnay managed to reply in broken French. "Results?" The president tore the black envelope in his hand and roared, "Since last week, this has been the 9th consecutive day of receiving a threatening letter from the Black Sun Totem. According to the time on the letter, Apollo will kill me in at most 3 weeks. And you, as the director of our Directorate General of External Security, the trump card of the 7th Bureau of Security, with the rank of general, you're telling me that more than a week has passed and you're calling this fast?" Depnay was so frightened by the furious roar that he took 2 steps back, almost touching the office door. His head was covered in cold sweat, and his legs began to tremble. "Mr. President, this Apollo is extremely cunning, and very dangerous. It's very difficult for us to find any loopholes in him," Depnay lamented. The corners of the president's mouth twitched as he said in a low voice, "Depnay, let me tell you, since I was able to make you the director of the 7th Bureau and become the leader of the French aces, I can naturally make someone else replace you. Your performance has disappointed me." Depnay's already pale face drained of all color. He hurriedly bent over and knelt on the ground, almost crying as he cried, "Mr. President, I will not let you down. The realm of gods led by Apollo has consecutively destroyed 3 military bases belonging to NATO, the European Union, and Russia. He has basically declared war on the world. He will definitely pay a price for such an arrogant act. After the secret meeting of the world's special organizations is held, we will definitely be able to unite the forces of all countries to find the nest of the realm of gods and destroy them. We will definitely not let Mr. President suffer any harm." Idiot! Apollo was able to easily destroy the secret military bases of 3 different forces. Does he not know that you are going to hold a secret meeting? For someone who can easily destroy an entire military base, how is raising the Élysée Palace any different from stepping on an ant? Is there any difference between your answer and lying to a 3-year-old? The president said unhappily. Depnay hurriedly explained, "Mr. President, please rest assured. Although Apollo's realm of gods is powerful, since he did not dare to appear openly and only dared to send a secret warning to the various countries of the European Union, he must be afraid. He was able to destroy the 3 secret bases only because the defenders were unprepared and used special non-military methods. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stopped after destroying 3 bases. Once we gather the elites of all countries and non-official mutant organizations and find out the root of the problem, we will definitely be able to defeat him." Humph. The president reluctantly accepted this explanation. "I hope you will do as well as you say. Mr. President, please rest assured. I definitely won't let you down." Depnay finally heaved a sigh of relief and climbed up from the ground. The president squinted his eyes and said, "During this period of time, VIPs and tourists from all over the world will be gathering in Paris. You better not cause any trouble, or else you better be prepared." Depnay hurriedly agreed, nodding and bowing as he left the hellish office. In the courtyard, Abbess Yunmiao was also nearing the end of her narration. When the guy who claimed to be the sun god Apollo first appeared, he didn't attract the attention of the European security organizations. After all, some underworld organizations and mercenary organizations would use the name of a god to recruit people to join them. They only thought of Apollo as one of them, and the organization he founded, Realm of Gods, was only listed as a low-level terrorist organization, so they didn't put much effort into dealing with it. But last month, that guy called Apollo unexpectedly found 3 military bases belonging to NATO, the European Union, and Russia, and completely destroyed them within 3 days, killing not even half of the defenders. Their destructive and scouting capabilities have risen to the ranks of an international terrorist organization. What's even more troublesome is that according to some soldiers who were lucky enough not to be in the military base, they saw flames falling from the sky like a meteor shower and landing in the military base. Then, the base started to explode, and not long after, the entire base was blown up. It wasn't a conventional military weapon at all. Because of this bizarre phenomenon, many people started to believe that Apollo was the real sun god, and the realm of gods also started to have many followers. Many underground organizations and cults started to rise from the ashes, and started to attach themselves to them. Hearing this, Yang Cheng's eyes flashed with suspicion. He asked, "They aren't doing this just to destroy, are they?" "Of course not," Abbess Yunmiao said solemnly. "Apollo has been requesting the European Union to recognize the legitimacy of the realm of gods since last week. He requested for the European Union to include the doctrine of the realm of gods in the Constitution of the European Union. Apollo also requested for the European Union Council to make decisions." "What?" This time, even Yang Cheng couldn't believe it. He laughed and said, "Doesn't that mean that Apollo not only wants to be a god, but also the ruler of Europe? Who knows, we might have to discuss this with America and Huaxia in the future." "That's right. Although his ambition is ridiculous, he's already doing it," Abbess Yunmiao sighed. "Apollo has already secretly sent a threatening letter to the French president, stating that if the European Union doesn't give him a satisfactory answer within a month, he will start divine punishment from the current president of the European Union Council, the president of France." "Divine punishment?" Yang Cheng couldn't help but burst into laughter. After laughing for a while, he wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and said, "Although I've never seen Apollo, I don't think he's the real deal. However, I'm not sure what method he used to destroy the military base. I think it wouldn't be a bad thing if I could see it with my own eyes. I'm very interested in that guy with ideals." Abbess Yunmiao said unhappily, "How can you still laugh? If he really is Apollo, then—" Abbess Yunmiao frowned. After all, she had personally witnessed the battle between Yang Cheng and Ares when they were unsealed. That kind of mountain-moving and ocean-filling power made her feel a chill every time she thought about it. Although Abbess Yunmiao wasn't too afraid of Yang Cheng's appearance, It didn't mean that deep down, Abbess Yun Miao dared to stand up straight in front of Yang Qing. Yang Qing could roughly guess the reason why Abbess Yun Miao was worried. After all, if Apollo, one of the 12 main gods, wanted to unify the world, unless the people from Hongmeng took action again, or if a main god was willing to fight Apollo for the sake of unsealing Huaxia, the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade could only watch helplessly. Although it's not to the extent of worrying about the collapse of the country, the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade is in a terrible state now. We really can't afford to waste too much of our resources, Abbess Yun Miao sighed. Yang Qing was puzzled. Why are you thinking so much? At most, don't participate in it. Do you think they can force you to participate in some kind of conference? Abbess Yun Miao frowned. This is an official conference. General Kai has just been appointed and is busy with important matters. It's already very disrespectful for me to bring a few members of Dragon Group there. If not a single one of us goes, it's equivalent to falling out with the other organizations in the world. Yang Qing shrugged. He wasn't interested in such official things. Since Abbess Yun Miao was still worried, he couldn't persuade her any further. Abbess Yun Miao felt that there was nothing more to say, so she didn't plan to stay any longer. Take good care of Hui Lin, she said before leaving. Just as Yang Chen was about to walk back into the house, he saw Kristen walking out. Judging from her excited expression, it was obvious that she had eavesdropped on their conversation from inside the house. Chapter 494. You're not going to tell me that you think that Apollo is real, are you? Yang Qing stepped forward and said, Although I've never seen Apollo, I don't think there's such a boring guy among the gods. After all, it doesn't make sense. Kristen giggled and said, Theoretically speaking, I don't think Apollo would do such a thing. But after listening to the old man's description of the meteor shower-like flame falling from the sky and bombing the base, I think it's a bit like him. Yang Qing frowned and asked, What do you mean? Kristen winked playfully. Apollo's artifact can cause similar effects. Of course, the real damage can't be that simple. Yang Qing was stunned. He didn't expect that. But I can't say for sure without seeing it with my own eyes. But I'm not interested in going to Europe. Whether it's Apollo or not, we'll find out sooner or later. If you're interested, you can go and take a look. If I remember correctly, it's almost time for Apollo's awakening. Maybe Apollo is overheated. Oh yeah, it's true that he always does things that are out of line. After saying that, Kristen ran back into the house with a smile. Yang Qing sighed. He had nothing to say to this woman who was always fooling around. As for the specific situation in Europe, he didn't care too much. To be honest, as long as it didn't affect his and Lin Ruoxi's trip, it didn't matter even if Paris was bombed after they left. The time before leaving the country slipped away. In the blink of an eye, it was already April on the calendar. After dinner that night, Hui Lin immediately rushed back to the company to participate in the production of the new album. She also held fan meetings everywhere. Of course, she also had to learn new singing and acting skills. Kristen was actually a trapeze artist. It was only because Yang Qing asked her for a favor that she stayed in Huaxia for so many days. After that night, she returned to the United States early, which saved Yang Qing a lot of trouble. After Lin Ruoxi arranged everything in Zhonghai in a race against time, the couple said goodbye to their family and boarded an Airbus to Paris, France for the first time. All of this was indescribable to Yang Qing. After all, the two only got a marriage certificate. There was nothing formal about it, let alone a honeymoon. This trip to Paris, the city of romance, made him feel like he was on cloud nine. Due to Lin Ruoxi's situation of having nowhere to spend her money, coupled with her personality and appearance, she wasn't suited to mingle with ordinary people. Therefore, the two of them booked first-class seat. Compared to domestic flights, the first-class seats of international flights were often several times more expensive. This was especially true during peak seasons. Therefore, most of the people who could take the first-class seats were elderly people who had nowhere to spend their money and were not in good health. Among the dozens of first-class seats, Yang Qing and Lin Ruoxi were the youngest. The rest were all white-haired and amiable old men. Lin Ruoxi, who was not working, was wearing a black lace off-shoulder dress. The low-key, luxurious cut and simple matching set off Lin Ruoxi's cold and aloof temperament. Her snow-white shoulders were exposed to the air, like the snow on a snowy mountain, glistening faintly under the sun. Her hair, which was usually tied up, was let down. Her silky black hair scattered on her shoulders. The fragrance of gardenia could be smelled from a long distance, which made people feel relaxed and happy. Yang Qing, who was sitting next to Lin Ruoxi, swallowed his saliva from time to time. His wife was too attractive. Looking at her at such a close distance was like a poison that emitted seductive hormones, making people fall into a kind of vortex. If it wasn't for Lin Ruoxi's porcelain-like face that was always cold, and her occasional glare at him, Yang Qin reckoned that he would have ignored the old men and grannies around him and pounced on her without a care for the consequences, and groped her a few times. He thought that this long-distance flight would be boring. After all, he was married and his wife was present. He couldn't flirt with the stewardess or play some adult games in the toilet like before. Unexpectedly, when he went out early in the morning, Lin Ruoxi, who had taken off her uniform and changed into a rich family's daughter's attire, fed his eyeballs until they were full. "Do you know that your expression right now makes me want to slap you? Don't you feel embarrassed?" Lin Ruoxi's lips moved slightly. She really couldn't stand Yang Qing's fiery gaze. This was simply drooling like a pig. The air conditioner in the plane was on the whole time, and it was a little dry. Yang Qing licked his dry lips and smiled. "Isn't this Ruoxi, baby? Are you beautiful? Usually, you don't let me get close to look at you. This flight to France will take more than half a day, and I can look at you to my heart's content. You're really too low level." Lin Ruoxi didn't know what to say. A person's shamelessness was really invincible. She couldn't help but blush. This guy's skin was too thick, but she didn't know why, but her heart was beating fiercely, and she was also a little complacent. Too infuriating. At this moment, an elderly Caucasian couple in the neighboring first-class seats looked at Yang Qin and Lin Sanjiu with a smile, and said a few words in French. Although Lin Ruoxi could speak English and some ordinary Japanese and Spanish, she didn't know anything about French. Seeing that the couple seemed to be talking about the two of them, it didn't seem like they were saying bad things about them, but she was still curious. Thinking that the man beside her seemed to understand all languages, she couldn't help but ask softly, "What did the old man say?" Yang Qing's gaze was fixed on the hazy fullness of Lin Ruoxi's chest. Hearing Lin Ruoxi's question, he said in a half-drunk state, "The old lady said, 'What a happy young couple.' The old man said, 'I thought that Hua Xia would be more conservative, but it seems like she knows how to be romantic like us French. It's good to be young, romantic?'" Lin Ruoxi almost rolled her eyes in a very unladylike manner. This guy was like a pig staring at her chest. It was already good enough that she didn't slap him. How could this be called romantic? "Are you randomly translating? Are you bullying me because I don't know French?" Lin Ruoxi said in a low voice angrily. Yang Qing laughed and said, "Am I that bored? If I really randomly translated, I would definitely translate, this girl is so beautiful, and she matches this guy very well. They're practically a match made in heaven. That's right, it must be this girl who is chasing this guy. Look at how manly this guy is. One look and you can tell that he's a good man. Enough." Lin Ruoxi was about to break down and quickly stopped him. Yang Qing quickly shut up and raised his eyebrows. His gaze continued to fall on Lin Ruoxi's chest. Lin Ruoxi raised her left wrist in pain. She had worn a Patek Philippe lady's wristwatch when she left the house. It looked like a simple and small watch, but it was as expensive as a supercar. "We've only left for less than an hour." Lin Ruashi sighed inwardly after looking at the time. She wanted to faint at the thought that she would have to continue flying with this man for more than 10 hours. Paris, France, 7th Bureau, secret underground base. The steel door of the main control room slowly opened, and the heavy sound of metal clanking could be heard. Dressed in a military uniform, the short Depney walked up to the main control podium with an ashen face. Below him was a large fluorescent screen and technical agents typing rapidly on their keyboard. Depney slowly shifted his gaze. After scanning the large control room, he snapped his fingers with his right hand. An attendant walked up to the control podium from a lift below and lowered his head respectfully. "Director, what can I do for you?" "Where's Fodessa?" Depney asked with a gloomy and rough voice. Deputy Director went to meet with a few leaders of mutant organizations and mercenaries from South America and West Asia an hour ago. "I believe he'll be back soon," the attendant replied respectfully. Depney's expression turned even uglier. He sure is carefree. Is meeting with foreign underground leaders something he should do?" At this moment, the steel door of the main control room opened again. A burly man in a dark blue military uniform with a rough face and a full beard walked up to the podium with a military cap in one hand. The man was stunned for a moment when he saw Depney. He then immediately gave a standard military salute. His gray eyes revealed a determined look. "Director, Fodessa reporting for duty." "Where did he go?" Depney asked in a low voice. Fodessa replied solemnly, "To the hotel where the VIPs of this secret meeting are." He secretly received the leader of the Panther mercenary group and the representative from the Sea of Death. Without waiting for Fodessa to finish his report, Depney suddenly turned around and gave him a flying kick. Bam! Depney, who looked ordinary at first, suddenly exploded with incomparable strength. With a gust of wind, he kicked the tall Fodessa to the ground. Fodessa was kicked in the chest and fell to the ground. However, he didn't dare to get up or resist. He quickly kneeled on the ground and lowered his head, not daring to make a sound. Receiving the representative. "Fodessa, you've grown up." Depney's eyes widened and his face twisted. "Did you know when you were receiving the representative, I was in the president's office, and I was scolded by the president?" Facing Depney's roar, Fodessa's body stiffened and didn't dare to move. The attendant had long retreated, and the staff below the control podium didn't dare to make a sound either. They buried their heads in their work and pretended not to see anything. "Bastard, do you really think you're some big shot in our 7th Bureau? Let me tell you. General de Gaulle established the Central Intelligence Agency, which is now our External Security Bureau, our 7th Bureau. Since then, there have been countless heroes and countless glories. But you, Fodessa, you're definitely not one of them." Depney dashed forward again and kicked Fodessa's left cheek. Fodessa groaned, blood trickling down the corner of his mouth. However, he didn't dare to get up and continued to kneel with his head lowered. "Fodessa, remember, your ancestors were traitors who betrayed France and submitted to Nazi Germany. Your blood is filled with filthy German blood. If I hadn't made an exception to promote you, you would only be an ordinary field special forces soldier. You wouldn't even have the chance to become an officer. Not to mention the position of the 7th Bureau's deputy director." Fodessa's body trembled, blood dripping from his left cheek onto the cold ground. He said in a trembling voice, "Fodessa, I will never forget the director's kindness." Depney squinted his eyes, his gaze sweeping across Fodessa's body like a blade. "It's good that you know. The source of the Golden Sun Totem, the investigation of Apollo's true identity, and the secret organization meeting we're hosting this time must not go wrong. Otherwise, if I lose my job, you won't have a good life either. Yes." Chapter 495. Paris, Charles de Gaulle Airport. After more than 10 hours of flight, the plane landed smoothly. Although it was already late at night in Huaxia, due to the time difference, France had just ushered in an ordinary afternoon. The warm sunlight shone on this beautiful land, and a gentle breeze blew. Lin Ruashi, who had slept for a while on the plane, did not feel too tired. After all, compared to her usual work, going to work, and attending meetings, this kind of flight was nothing. Of course, Yang Qing did not feel tired at all. When he stepped on the land of Europe, the smile on his face disappeared. He could not help but feel emotional as too many things from the past appeared in his mind. The two of them walked together to the exit of the international arrival. Lin Ruashi was only carrying a Prada shoulder bag. After all, there was a branch in Paris. Most of the things could be prepared on the spot, so there was no need to prepare any luggage. On the other hand, Yang Qing did not care about anything. He was empty-handed, and the two of them were quite relaxed. Along the way, he was still telling some inappropriate adult jokes to her. When he suddenly got off the plane, he stopped talking and walked in silence. Lin Ruashi could easily sense the change in Yang Qing. Turning her head, she glanced at the man beside her, who suddenly had a complicated expression. Lin Ruashi had a feeling that he was more real this way. Lin Ruashi could not help but ask, "What are you thinking about?" Yang Qing subconsciously wanted to take out a pack of cigarettes from his shirt pocket, but he immediately realized that smoking was not allowed in the airport. He smiled and said, "Nothing, just some ridiculous things. But it's all in the past now." Lin Ruashi did not ask much. She knew that the ridiculous things that Yang Qing mentioned were definitely not the past that he wanted to talk about. "By the way, who's the person who's picking us up?" Yang Qing asked casually. Lin Ruashi led the way and said, "It's the director of the European branch. His name is Goodman." "Goodman? Goodman. That's an interesting name. Is it a man?" Yang Qing asked. "Of course, women wouldn't choose such a name either," Lin Ruashi said. "His mother is from Huaxia and his father is French. He was born in England and spent many years in Huaxia. He used to be my senior. Because his ancestors were princesses of the royal family, even though he had lost his title, he was still considered a noble. When my grandmother was still alive, she personally promoted him. After working in Zhonghai for a year, he was appointed as the director of Europe. After I took office, I only met him twice. Since our branch happens to be in Paris, he said early that he would come and pick us up." Yang Qing rubbed his nose and muttered, "Another senior, and a mixed blood too. He must be very handsome. Ruashi darling, it can't be another Xing Xinlin, right?" Lin Ruashi frowned. She always felt uncomfortable talking about Xing Xinlin. It could be said that she had cruelly killed an old friend. Goodman is different from Xing Xinlin. He doesn't have much ambition in his career. He's more like a romantic Frenchman who enjoys life. He cares about his noble bloodline and doesn't care about money, Lin Ruashi said. Yang Qing laughed. "You only met him twice and you already know what kind of person he is?" "I'm good at reading people," Lin Ruashi said confidently. She added in her heart, "I just don't understand your thick skin." Yang Qing smiled evilly and didn't refute. After walking for about 15 minutes, the two finally arrived at the exit. There were people everywhere waiting to pick them up. However, the two immediately found a sign with Chinese characters printed on it, Yulei International. Almost at the same time, Yang Qing also saw the mixed blood that Lin Ruashi mentioned, Goodman. Dressed in a white suit, Goodman indeed had an extraordinary appearance. Although his hair was black, he had the distinct contours of a Westerner's face, as well as his slightly greenish-blue pupils. He was tall and sturdy, at least half a head taller than Yang Qing. His back was extremely straight. The genial smile on his face made him appear natural and reserved. His noble temperament made the tourists from the surrounding countries, be it men or women, glance at him from time to time. When Goodman saw Lin Ruashi appear at the exit in a black dress, his eyes lit up and the smile on his face grew wider. However, he didn't act abruptly. Instead, he slowly walked forward and opened his arms, wanting to give Lin Ruashi a hug. Lin Ruashi didn't reject such etiquette. After all, in Western countries, hugging and touching each other's face wasn't too much and didn't mean to offend anyone. However, before Lin Ruashi could open her arms, a figure flew into Goodman's embrace. "Haha, you're too kind." Hug, 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 hug. Lin Ruashi's gaze was a little dazed. She saw that Yang Qing, who was behind her a moment ago, was now hugging Goodman and patting his back affectionately. Goodman was also a little dumbfounded. His expression was stiff. When he saw who he was hugging, he was even more shocked and hurriedly moved away. You are?" Goodman asked in Mandarin. "He's Yang Qing, the director of our newly established entertainment company. This time, he was supposed to be the representative of the headquarters, but he doesn't have any experience. Since I'm here to inspect the situation in Europe, I came along," Lin Ruashi explained on behalf of Yang Qing. She didn't plan to reveal their relationship. As a matter of fact, Lin Ruashi couldn't open her mouth at all. What Yang Chen did was too embarrassing. The way he hugged Goodman earlier was treated as a joke by many of the tourists. Goodman was experienced and immediately understood what was going on. He sneered at Yang Cheng's childishness in his heart. Maintaining his charming smile, he said, "Mr. Yang, it's an honor to meet you. I didn't expect you to become a director at such a young age. You must be extraordinary. My name is Goodman. Nice to meet you. I'll definitely treat you well in France this time. I hope you'll have a good time. You're so polite." Yang Qing revealed a satisfied smile and opened his arms again. "Come, let's hug again." Goodman was embarrassed. He smiled stiffly. "Haha, Mr. Yang is really humorous. Let's go out first and talk in the car. I haven't seen Ruashi for a long time. We should catch up." Lin Ruashi couldn't stand it anymore. She walked up and secretly tapped on Yang Cheng's back, hinting him not to go overboard. Yang Qing was depressed. "This guy didn't even call me CEO, but Ruashi. I'll be doing him a favor if I don't give him a punch." Sima Zhao's intentions were clear to everyone. This guy wasn't interested in Yulei International, but he was interested in Lin Ruashi. Romance required both a man and a woman. What's there to be romantic about if he's a man? After exchanging greetings, Yang Qing followed Lin Ruashi and Goodman out of the airport. While Goodman asked if Lin Ruashi was tired from the journey, he also tried to get close to Yang Qing. "May I know where Mr. Yang worked in the past? You should have good work experience, right?" Goodman probed. It was rare for Yang Qing to leave the airport. He was busy lighting a cigarette. He had been sullen along the way. When he heard Goodman's question, he answered vaguely while flicking the flame of the inferior lighter. "I used to sell mutton skewers in the West District of Zhonghai. You probably haven't been there before. It's quite flat, not high." Goodman almost fell to the ground. His mouth twitched as he said, "Oh, really? Really? So it's the F&B industry." Lin Ruashi's pretty face was frosty. She pretended that she didn't hear anything and quickened her pace to the car. Goodman had spent a lot of effort to get a Bentley limousine. The interior of the limousine was luxurious and versatile, just like a mobile luxury hotel. Moreover, the color scheme was extremely elegant, which made it very attractive to women. More importantly, he obviously knew that Lin Ruashi would like this car because Lin Ruashi drove a Bentley. After the three of them got into the car, Goodman ordered the driver to go to the Paris Sofitel Hotel, which was a famous five-star hotel. Those who could stay there were either rich or powerful. Recently, there have been rumors in Paris that a terrorist organization will come to disrupt the Fashion Week and attack some rich businessmen and politicians. Although it's just a rumor, we have to be careful. I've specially brought 4 bodyguards to protect you in the dark. It's safe and comfortable." After getting into the car, Goodman pointed at a Mercedes-Benz S500 following behind. Obviously, there were bodyguards in that car. "You're still as thoughtful as before," Lin Ruashi said casually as a form of affirmation. When she heard the word bodyguard, she silently glanced at Yang Qing, who was sitting opposite her. This guy was casually rummaging through the fridge in the car, preparing to open a bottle of red wine. With him around, there shouldn't be any danger at all. Unknowingly, perhaps because she had seen Yang Qing resolve the problems easily too many times, Lin Ruoxi always felt that as long as Yang Qing was around, she would be safe. Haha! Bingo! Found it! Yang Qing shouted happily in the car. He took out a bottle of red wine from the fridge and immediately opened the packaging. I'm glad that Mr. Yang likes it. This is a margarita, specially brewed in 82 years. There aren't more than 10 bottles in the entire Paris. If I wasn't acquainted with the owner of the winery, I wouldn't have been able to get my hands on this wine, Goodman said proudly. In the blink of an eye, Yang Qing had already unscrewed the cap, and the fragrance of the wine filled the car. It was indeed different. Although Lin Ruoxi didn't like wine, she could smell how precious the wine was. She liked Goodman's effort. It wasn't that she didn't know that it was impossible for her to be with Goodman, but it didn't mean that as a woman, she wouldn't dislike a man trying to please her. However, just as Lin Ruoxi was about to grab a glass of wine for Yang Chen to pour some for them on the way to the hotel, Yang Chen's next action made her completely give up on the idea. Gulp, gulp. Under Goodman's astonished gaze, Yang Chen picked up the bottle of wine, opened his mouth, and started gulping it down. Lin Ruoxi clenched her teeth. It wasn't that she found it a pity that the bottle of wine was wasted, but she couldn't understand why this guy would always do such a thing. Goodman's jaw almost dropped to the ground. A bottle of rare wine worth tens of thousands of euros was wasted by this uncouth man like it was a cheap orange soda. I'm sorry, Goodman. Yang Qing has always been like this. He didn't mean to make things difficult for you. Lin Ruoxi felt sorry for Goodman. After all, he had spent a lot of effort to get this wine. Anyone would be unhappy if they drank it like that. Goodman was annoyed, but he quickly smiled and waved his hand. It's good that Mr. Yang likes it. There are still 2 bottles anyway. Ruoxi, I'll open one for you. Lin Ruoxi nodded. She glanced at Yang Qing from the corner of her eyes and saw that he had already finished half of the bottle of wine. The satisfied look on his face was extremely absurd. Hee, I'm sorry. I didn't know that this wine was so expensive. Why don't I pour some for you? We can all drink together. Yang Qing burped and said with a smile. It's fine. This bottle is for Mr. Yang. Goodman said politely. He was cursing in his heart. Do I have to drink your saliva? Then, he went to get another bottle. Yang Qing stuck out his tongue and licked the red wine that was dripping from the corner of his mouth. He smiled evilly and said, I think you shouldn't open the bottle for now. Let's see where we are going first. Why do I feel that this isn't the way to the Sofitel Hotel? Chapter 496. Goodman didn't react at first. Then, he couldn't help but sneer. Mr. Yang, you really know how to joke. Our company's chauffeurs send people everywhere in Paris every day. Although I'm not picky, everyone is familiar with the roads in Paris. How could they drive the wrong way? Is that so? I think Mr. Goodman should look at the situation outside. Why do I feel like we're driving in the opposite direction? Yang Qing knocked on the window with a wine bottle. Goodman was a little annoyed. Does this man think I'm a fool? A mutton skewer seller? What kind of fortune did he get to be the director of Ulay International? Not only is he on the same level as me, but he can also come to Paris with Lin Ruoxi. However, no matter how lucky he is, strength is strength, and the gap is still the gap. No matter how much he pretends to be, he's just a lowly commoner. What could he know? Mr. Yang, may I ask if you've been to Paris before? Do you know where the Sofitel Hotel is? Do you know the traffic routes in Paris? Goodman suppressed his anger and forced himself to be gentle. Rue Boissy d'Angles Avenue, number 15. Is this the correct address? Yang Qing replied in standard French. Goodman was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect Yang Qing to be able to speak French with his death-seeking manner. What surprised him even more was that the address Yang Qing mentioned was indeed the address of the Sofitel Hotel. He didn't believe that Yang Chun could get something like this right just by guessing blindly. This time, Goodman finally turned his head around and looked at the road outside. Looking over, Goodman suddenly realized that the car wasn't heading in the direction of Paris. Instead, it was heading in the northeast direction outside the city. "What's going on?" Goodman muttered to himself in shock as a chill ran down his spine. Lin Ruoshi, who hadn't said a word, didn't know the exact situation in Paris. However, she immediately understood that what Yang Qing said was right. For some reason, the car wasn't heading to the hotel. Instead, it was heading somewhere unknown. Realizing that something was wrong, Lin Ruoshi turned to look at Yang Qing. She could only hope that Yang Qing could tell her what was going on. However, Yang Qing shrugged as if he knew that Lin Ruoshi would ask him. "Although I know that the path is wrong, I don't know why such a situation occurred." Goodman snapped out of his stupor and hurriedly sat in front of the driver's seat. He pressed a button to contact the driver's seat. In order to prevent the conversation from being overheard by the driver, the central guest area of the modified luxury Bentley was completely blocked off. The driver could only communicate with the driver through the communicator. "Spear, what are you doing? You're going the wrong way. Did you hear what I said, Spear?" Goodman reprimanded loudly. However, no matter how Goodman shouted or cursed, the driver named Spear didn't respond at all. It was as if he didn't hear him at all. "Stop shouting. It's useless even if you scream yourself hoarse. Didn't you notice that the Mercedes-Benz that was following behind us has long disappeared?" Yang Qing sipped his red wine and smiled. "It seems that the driver and the bodyguard have been tampered with when you weren't in the car. Either the driver and bodyguard have been replaced, or they have been bribed by someone. It's a pity that I don't know the driver. Otherwise, I might have been able to help you check if it was the original driver." Goodman was shocked. He had never thought that the chauffeur would be Swap. When he looked back, the bodyguard's Mercedes-Benz was indeed gone. Although he was an outstanding manager, it didn't mean that he had such experience. At this moment, he finally understood that the three of them had been kidnapped. How could this be? "No. I have to call the police." Goodman quickly took out his phone. However, the moment he dialed the number, he realized that there was no signal. "Don't even think about it. There must be a signal jammer in the car. Calling won't work." Yang Qing laughed. "They aren't that stupid. How could they not know that you have a phone?" Goodman's legs went soft. He sat back on his seat, not knowing what to do. Sigh. "Mr. Goodman, you are such a jinx. Didn't you just say that Paris isn't safe? How did we get kidnapped the moment we got off the plane?" Yang Qing clicked his tongue. "We don't even know where we are going. Do we have to suffer on our first day in Paris? Stop joking. Hurry up and think of a solution." Lin Ruoshi didn't panic. Perhaps it was because she saw how calm Yang Qing was, so she didn't think that there was anything to be afraid of. However, seeing how Yang Qing kept scaring Goodman, she still reminded him. Goodman's face turned pale. Although he didn't know why Lin Ruoshi wasn't afraid, seeing how relaxed Yang Qing was, he still hoped that Yang Qing was really capable. After all, he was surprised when Yang Qing suddenly spoke in French. "Mr. Yang, seeing how calm you are, you must have a way to escape. My safety isn't important, but Ruoshi is Yulei International's pillar. Without her, Yulei International will collapse. She's a girl. Please don't let anything happen to her." Although everyone could tell that he was afraid of death, Goodman still looked at Yang Qing sincerely and said some nice words. Yang Qing frowned and fell into deep thought. After thinking for a while, he took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a deep puff. Lin Ruoshi and Goodman weren't in the mood to stop Yang Qing from smoking in the car. They just looked at him, hoping that he would say something quickly. After Yang Qing smoked, the car was filled with white smoke. Lin Ruoshi frowned and couldn't help but cough. "Well, there must be a way." Yang Qing looked out of the window with a deep gaze. After a pause, he said, "It's just that. I haven't thought of. Goodman opened his mouth as if he was petrified. Silence. Dead silence. About half a minute later, Lin Ruashi's angry voice, which was rarely heard, came from the car. Yang Cheng. Go to hell. On the highway, the extended Bentley sped past. It was so fast that no one would have the chance to escape. In the car, Yang Cheng was leisurely drinking red wine and smoking low-quality tobacco. On the other hand, Lin Ruashi had been tricked by Yang Cheng. After cursing and pinching Yang Cheng's body, she sat there sulking and didn't want to speak. Goodman was the only one who had a long face. He wasn't in the mood to maintain his usual image. Unknowingly, the car had reached an unknown stretch of highway. The sky outside was filled with twinkling stars. Occasionally, street lights and billboards flashed by, telling the people in the car that they were getting further and further away from Paris. Goodman had originally come to pick up Lin Ruashi and Lin Ruashi. He had even arranged a luxurious hotel and a luxurious dinner for them. However, he didn't expect to be kidnapped suddenly. He had no idea where they were being sent to. Recalling the recent rumors, he felt that they were in trouble. Feeling the immense pressure, Goodman fainted not long after. He wouldn't wake up any time soon. Seeing Goodman faint just like that, Yang Cheng shook his head and sighed. You look strong, but you're too timid. TSK. Lin Ruashi sat on the comfortable seat and hugged her knees. Occasionally, she would glance at Yang Cheng, who was sitting opposite her. This man had been smoking and drinking. He had already finished 4 bottles of wine. Fortunately, there was a toilet in the car. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know how he was going to pee. Yang Cheng, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Lin Ruashi finally asked after a long period of silence. Yang Cheng didn't understand what she meant. You definitely have a way to escape. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Lin Ruashi said with certainty. Yang Cheng grinned. You're indeed my wife. You can even think of this. I really want to see what they're going to do and where they're sending us. It's not hard to guess at all. You've never been serious. You always pretend to be the one being bullied, and in the end, you're always the one bullying me. I've been tricked by you so many times that I'm already used to it. It's not a big deal. Lin Ruashi pouted slightly. Perhaps because she wasn't in her usual working state, she looked even more pure and innocent. She said unhappily, You better not cause any trouble at the end. If you go too far and something happens to you, or if you delay this important matter, you're dead meat. Yang Cheng waved his hand. With a cigarette in his mouth, he smiled lazily. Don't worry. We haven't consummated our marriage yet. I don't want to die. You. Lin Ruashi was both embarrassed and angry. Her dimples instantly turned red. She glanced at Goodman, who was lying on the bed, to make sure that he hadn't woken up. Only then did she nod on Sheen. However, she still glared at Yang Cheng and didn't dare to say anything else. Finally, after a slightly bumpy road, the car drove into a dark space and stopped. Goodman, who was in the car, seemed to have been shaken and woke up from his sleep. He looked around and saw that Yang Cheng and Lin Ruashi were still in the car. He seemed to be a little on Sheen, but when he sensed that he was surrounded by darkness, he immediately shivered. Where is this? Goodman couldn't help but ask. Lin Ruashi looked at him helplessly. Although she didn't expect Goodman to do anything impressive, this young master of a noble family really didn't have any standards. Once he was in danger, his usual noble demeanor would disappear. On the way here, they seemed to have purposely chosen a bumpy road. There aren't many street lights, and we can't see any road signs. We have no idea where we are now, Lin Ruashi replied kindly. Goodman's face fell even further. We won't be killed, right? No, if they wanted to kill us, they would have done it on the way here, Lin Ruashi said. That's hard to say, Yang Cheng, who hadn't said anything, chuckled. Who knows, they might want to kill us after extorting all the benefits. Ah! Goodman screamed in fear. Lin Ruashi glared at Yang Chen. Stop scaring him. Not everyone is as daring as you. You're not afraid of anything." At this moment, the door of the Bentley was opened from the outside. In the dark, 2 torchlights were turned on, shooting out 2 dazzling beams of light. 4 tall, mysterious men in black military uniforms, leather boots, metal helmets, and goggles appeared outside the door. The 4 of them were holding automatic rifles that flickered with black light. Their dark bodies exuded a strong military aura, making it hard for people to breathe. One of them glanced at Yang Qing and the other 2 in the car before locking his gaze on Goodman, who was wearing a white suit, at the outermost edge of the car. Although the man's expression couldn't be seen due to the helmet and goggles, Goodman's body still stiffened and he swallowed his saliva. Croc! The man raised the automatic rifle in his hand. With lightning speed, the black muzzle of the gun was aimed at Goodman's forehead. Chapter 497. "Ah! Don't kill me!" Goodman shrieked in agony. He quickly covered his head with both hands and retreated to the innermost part of the car like a madman. Lin Ruoshi was almost hit by Goodman's crazy movement. Fortunately, Yang Qing reacted quickly and pulled her to his side. Only then did she survive. The man in black didn't open fire. He only let out ear-piercing laughter that sounded like the grinding of gears. The other 3 laughed as well. Obviously, they despised Goodman's cowardice. Yang Qing didn't utter a word. He pulled Lin Ruoshi behind him and patiently observed the equipment of the 4 men in black from head to toe, including the guns in their hands. In the end, Yang Qing's gaze locked onto the same pattern on the arms of the 4 men in black, a golden sun totem. Yang Qing squinted his eyes. He didn't recognize this totem. In his memory, there wasn't such a symbol in any mercenary organization or national security organization. Obviously, if this was an organization, it should have appeared in the year after he returned to his country. "Son." Yang Qing raised his head and looked at the back of the men in black. He then looked at the totem on their sleeve. The corner of his mouth twitched. He suddenly felt that things were getting interesting. After the 4 men in black were done laughing, they nodded at each other and walked forward to pull Goodman, who was hiding in the corner, out of the car. At this moment, Goodman's body was sore and powerless. He was scared out of his wits and was dragged out as if he had lost his bones. Yang Qing raised both of his hands and revealed a frightened expression. He said in French, "I'll walk by myself. I'll walk by myself." The 4 men in black didn't say anything. Seeing that Yang Qing had obediently come out by himself, they were too lazy to do anything. They just waved their rifles and signaled for Lin Ruoshi to come out by herself as well. Although Lin Ruoshi didn't know what Yang Qing was planning, she was really scared. No matter what, she was still a woman. No matter how calm she was, it would be good if she didn't cry or make a fuss when she was kidnapped. At this moment, she couldn't think of anything else. Seeing Yang Qing get out of the car, she quickly followed and hid behind Yang Qing. Under the threat of 4 guns, Yang Qing and the other 2 slowly walked toward a dark door not far away. When they reached the door, the steel door was pulled open. The 4 men in black pushed the 3 of them from the back very rudely. After shoving them into the door, they immediately closed the door with a bang. In the darkness, the damp and cold air seeped into the collar of his clothes. The ground was cold and hard, and there was a moldy smell everywhere. Goodman's legs were unstable, so he fell to the ground the moment he entered the room. Looking around, it was still pitch black. Even Yang Qing and Lin Ruoshi couldn't be seen. With a trembling voice, he asked in French, Where is this place?" He had long forgotten to speak in Chinese, so he treated it as a soliloquy. "It's a warehouse." Suddenly, a pleasant and magnetic male voice came from a dark corner and answered his question. "Ah!" Goodman was startled once again. He took a step back, but he did not expect to bump his head against the steel door. He cried out in pain again. It was truly a case of misfortune. He had no time to care about the other side. Lin Ruoshi was also shocked. She subconsciously held onto Yang Qing's arm and stuck close to Yang Qing. Yang Qing smiled and extended his other hand to touch Lin Ruoshi's head. I'm here. Don't be afraid. After hearing Yang Cheng's words and touch, Lin Ruoshi realized that she had taken the initiative to stick to Yang Qing. The two soft lumps of flesh on her chest had directly embedded into Yang Cheng's arm. Hurriedly moving away, Lin Ruoshi blushed in the dark. She lowered her head and said, You. It was just an instinctive reaction. I know. Yang Qing smiled even more happily. He enjoyed the touch very much, but it was a pity that Lin Ruoshi had moved away so quickly. Although everything here was extremely dark, it didn't affect his vision at all. He had always been able to see his surroundings clearly, including the people in the corners. Turning around, Yang Qing took out his mobile phone. It wasn't to make a call, but to use it as a flashlight to provide some light in the dark. Even if he didn't need light, Lin Ruoshi and the terrified Goodman needed to see. With the light from the mobile phone, Lin Ruoshi and Goodman felt a little better. Meanwhile, Yang Qing walked toward the corner of the warehouse. The warehouse was a small room, but it was still more than 100 square meters. When Yang Qing walked to the corner, the light from the mobile phone illuminated the two figures hugging each other. What an honor to meet you two in such a place. It seems like fate has brought us together. Yang Qing greeted them in French with a bright smile. Lin Ruoshi and Goodman had also caught up. Seeing the two people in the corner, Lin Ruoshi slightly frowned while Goodman looked surprised. It was a man and a woman. The man was leaning against the wall in the corner, while the woman was lying in the man's embrace like a docile kitten. They were so intimate that it felt like they weren't in an ice-cold prison but a warm bed. The man was wearing a checkered suit and yellow trousers. He had a handsome face and a snow-white complexion. His blonde hair was very eye-catching, especially his seductive blue eyes. There was even a mischievous smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. According to the secular view, such a handsome white man could easily kill 99% of the girls. The other silver-haired woman was also beautiful. Not only was her natural light silver hair extremely rare, but she also had a curvaceous body and delicate facial features. Her light golden eyes were like the stars in the sky. She was only wearing a light pink spaghetti strap dress, revealing a large portion of her fair skin. Even though Yang Qing was used to seeing all kinds of beauties and had Lin Ruoshi standing next to him, this woman's unique beauty still made his eyes light up. Lin Ruoshi could not help but snort when she saw Yang Qing scanning the foreign woman from head to toe. Yang Qing immediately turned around and said in Mandarin, "Baby, of course she's not as beautiful as you. I only took a few more glances because of her special hair color." That was the truth. Although the silver-haired woman was beautiful, she was still a distance away from Lin Ruoshi's otherworldly beauty. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, she was probably half a goddess. You don't have to explain. Just look if you want to. Lin Ruoshi pouted. She felt a little better, but she did not seem to have forgiven Yang Qing. While the two were talking, the young man and woman did not say anything else. Instead, they gazed at each other lovingly. The man would kiss the corner of the woman's lips from time to time, while the woman would touch the man's cheeks from time to time. The lovey-dovey look of the two made them seem like they were living in their own world. Looking at the couple who were hugging each other calmly, Goodman finally recognized them. He blinked and said, Aren't you, the siblings of the Cromwell family, Stern and Alice?" Stern and Alice finally stopped flirting with each other and turned around to look at Yang Qing and the other two. In the end, their gazes landed on Goodman. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't know you. Are you British?" Stern's magnetic voice spoke again. "Oh, no. It's understandable that you don't know me. I'm the director of the European branch of ULE International. My name is Goodman. I was fortunate enough to meet the two of you during the London Fashion Week 2 years ago. That's why I remembered you too." Goodman quickly tidied up his clothes and introduced them in a reserved manner. "This is the CEO of ULE International, Madame Lin Ruoshi. This is Director Yang who accompanied us to Paris this time. I didn't expect the two of you to be kidnapped as well. I'm really sorry. Yang Qing admired Goodman a little. This guy was really dedicated to his work. Even after being kidnapped, he was still trying to build a relationship. The Cromwell family. Lin Ruoshi seemed to have recalled something. She asked, Goodman, are you saying that the two of them are the descendants of the Cromwell family from the Lord Protector's residence? Yes, yes. The Lord Protector's residence. Goodman quickly introduced them excitedly. This is Mr. Stern, the current first-in-line successor to the Cromwell family. Miss Alice is his twin sister from the same mother. During the Commonwealth of England in the history of England, Oliver Cromwell, the iron-fisted Lord Protector, abolished the royal power and controlled the army. He could be said to be a formidable figure of his generation. However, due to the fact that his successor couldn't convince the people, it led to the restoration of the dynasty by Charles II. Cromwell's remains were also excavated by the royal family and were subjected to all kinds of post-mortem torture. However, the Cromwell family was, after all, a large family that used to have boundless glory. They were wealthy, had a wide network, and had countless loyal men. After several generations of low-profile operations, the surviving bloodline had always played various important roles in the land of England. Although the Cromwell family was no longer the Lord Protector's residence, they still retained the noble title of a hereditary duke. Although they weren't famous, they were recognized as one of the most influential aristocratic families in England in the upper class. Therefore, even though Lin Ruoshi hadn't spent much time in Europe, she still had a certain understanding of the Cromwell family. At this time, Alice also opened her mouth. With a crisp and gentle voice, she said with a smile, "So it's the CEO of Ulay International. What a beautiful young sister. I'm so envious. Such a beauty is rare in this world. Isn't that right, dear brother?" "In my eyes, Alice, you're the most beautiful," Stern said naturally and planted a kiss on Alice's hair. Lin Ruoshi couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. She glanced at Goodman and asked, "You're saying they're siblings from the same mother?" Goodman smiled bitterly and explained, "Yes. Although they're siblings, they're a publicly known intimate couple in the upper class and received the blessings of many people. No one in the Cromwell family objected to it, so it's always been like this. It's no secret. Isn't it just nonsense? I've seen this a lot. It's nothing. It's great to have such a beautiful sibling couple." Yang Qing laughed nonchalantly. "You know so much." Lin Ruoshi glanced at Yang Qing. She was about to faint. "What's going on?" "I was kidnapped as soon as I arrived in Paris and locked in a warehouse somewhere. I even ran into a mysterious noble sibling couple." Yang Chun, on the other hand, was very interested. He squatted down and aimed his phone at the siblings. Grinning, he asked, "Hey, stop licking each other's tongues. Tell me how you guys got here. What's the situation here?" Chapter 498. Hearing Yang Cheng's question, Stern reluctantly stopped his entanglement with his sister. He leisurely straightened his body and leaned against the wall. Shrugging, he said, "As you can see, we're being held in a warehouse. As for why I know this is a warehouse, it's because we were kidnapped when we left the hotel in the afternoon. Although we were blindfolded, we could at least see that we were entering a warehouse. The network signals here are all jammed, so we can't call for help from the outside. Oh right, there are quite a number of single warehouses here. We heard someone calling for help, so there should be quite a number of people locked up here. Could it be that the rumors are true? That there's a terrorist organization that kidnapped the rich?" Goodman asked bitterly. "I do know." Stern was rather relaxed. He looked at Alice in his arms affectionately and said, "We're only here for the fashion week. We didn't expect to encounter such a thing. But no matter what, as long as I'm with my Alice, it doesn't matter even if I die." Lin Ruoshi, who couldn't stand the siblings, had already turned around. Since she couldn't understand French, she could only speak in English. can you guys communicate in English? I'm the only one who can understand. Oh, I'm sorry, General Lin. I'll be careful, Stern apologized politely in standard English with a London accent. It'd be better if they could stop kissing and making it less mushy, Lin Ruashi thought in her heart, but she was too embarrassed to say it out loud. Yang Chen scanned his surroundings. He could sense that he was in a rather large warehouse, and he wasn't the only one who was being held captive. However, he was curious as to why these people would kidnap a bunch of rich and nobles without doing anything. What was their intention? Alice crawled out of Stern's embrace and flirted with her silver hair. She said coquettishly, I really want to take a shower. The floor here is too dirty. How do you guys think we should contact the guards outside? Goodman's face twitched as he laughed dryly. Miss Alice, now isn't the time to talk about how to take a shower. We're still being kidnapped. Why not? Just because you're kidnapped doesn't mean you can't take a shower. Alice blinked her big, watery eyes innocently. Then, she stood up and walked towards the warehouse door with the help of her phone's light. The dumbfounded Goodman hurriedly shouted, Miss Alice, it's too dangerous. It's okay. I'm so cute and charming. How could they bear to kill me? Alice did not listen at all. She giggled and walked to the warehouse door. She knocked on the door a few times and shouted in English, Someone come quickly, I want to take a shower. Lin Ruashi, who was standing behind Yang Qing, opened her mouth slightly. She even suspected that the strange siblings might have escaped from a mental asylum. She couldn't help but ask Yang Qing, Don't you think they're weird? Who would want to take a bath at this time? Yang Qing stroked the sparse stubble on his chin. He did not have the time to shave due to the flight. He said, What's wrong with that? Just don't treat them as normal people. Lin Ruashi felt a headache coming. She regretted saying that to Yang Qing. This guy had never been normal. Of course, he wouldn't think that the siblings from the Cromwell family were abnormal. Unexpectedly, she heard someone approaching the warehouse door when she thought that it would be useless for Alice to shout. Clank! The big iron gate was pulled open again, and a man in black who had appeared just now stood outside the gate with a gun in his hand. He said in an obviously electronically altered voice, We only provide food and water. There is no other service. Please leave. They're so humane, Lin Ruashi said coldly without any expression. Alice, however, refused. She said coquettishly, Aya, why is it like this? Is there no bathroom? It's so dirty and damp here. I want to take a shower. I want to go to the bathroom. You can't possibly ask a young and beautiful lady to do that kind of thing in a place like this. As she spoke, Alice stood in front of the guard and stomped her feet. She looked exactly like a kindergartner. Haha, Stern, your sister. Oh no, your woman is so cute, haha. Yang Chen chuckled as he looked at Alice's expression. Stern's eyes were full of love. He said, Do you think so too, Mr. Yang? That's right. My little Alice has always been the cutest woman. Lin Ruashi, who was standing at the side, felt a little nauseous when she heard this. She stared at Yang Qing hatefully. This guy actually has the mood to talk nonsense with this crazy pair of siblings? The guard outside the door was also stunned. He could not figure out how a hostage could still be in the mood to act coquettishly. However, he obviously would not listen to Alice. He raised his voice and berated, Go in. If you make any more noise, I'll shoot you. Seeing that the gun was aimed at her, Alice screamed, Ah! Annoying! How can you treat a lady like this? Do you think I don't dare to shoot? The guard was a little annoyed. He finally put his hands on the gun. Alice pouted and turned around unhappily. She said to Yang Qing and the others in the corner, My dear, they won't let me take a bath. What should I do? Stern thought about it seriously, but he could only shake his head. My dear, I have no other way. I don't know if Mr. Yang or Madame Lin has any ideas. My little Alice really needs a bath. If she doesn't take a bath for a day, she will feel very uncomfortable. I can give it a try, Yang Chen said as he raised his hand. The guard naturally ignored the gossip of these prisoners in the warehouse. After pushing Alice back, he planned to close the door. However, before the guard outside the warehouse closed the iron door, Yang Qing had already walked to the door and pressed the half-closed iron door. "Don't be in such a hurry. We can talk about it. Do me a favor," Yang Qing said to the guard with a smile. "Do you want to leave this world early?" the guard asked fiercely. Seeing that Yang Qing dared to provoke the guard in front of him, although Lin Ruoshi had enough trust in Yang Qing, her heart was still in her throat. She wanted to go forward to stop Yang Qing, but Goodman stopped her. "Ruoshi, don't go up. It's too dangerous," Goodman shouted in a panic. Lin Ruoshi couldn't care less. She used all her strength to shake Goodman off. However, before she could reach the door, she heard a loud bang from the iron door. Lin Ruoshi turned around and realized that Yang Qing had gone out with the guard. The warehouse returned to its pitch-black state. "Yang Qing!" Lin Ruoshi called out, but she didn't hear any response. "Tut tut tut tut!" All of a sudden, the sound of a machine gun being fired echoed through the warehouse. Then, there was no sound from outside the door. The sudden change in the situation rendered Lin Ruoshi speechless. She stared at the door in a daze, and there was only one voice in her mind: "That man will be fine." But somehow, even though she had full confidence in Yang Qing, Lin Ruoshi couldn't help but tear up. Her body trembled uncontrollably, and her feet seemed to be nailed to the ground, unable to move. Director Yang, he's. Goodman couldn't think of any other possibilities. From his perspective, even with the iron door between them, he could still see that Yang Qing's body had been pierced by a bullet. Stern had taken out his phone. With the help of the light, he walked to the door with Alice in his arms. As if he was taking a stroll in the park, he reached for the warehouse door, wanting to open it. No. Seeing this, Goodman quickly ran forward and stopped Stern. His forehead was covered in cold sweat as he said, "Mr. Stern, please don't be impulsive. Director Yang has already been killed. We can't repeat the same mistake. As long as we're alive, we'll have a chance to escape." Before Goodman could finish, Yang Cheng's lazy voice came from outside the door. Hey, little goo, who did you say died? You can't curse people behind the door." Goodman quivered and turned around. Coincidentally, the iron door had been pulled open again. It was unknown when Yang Qing had lit a cigarette and held it in his mouth. In the dark, the cigarette but was especially red, as if it was the most unique fluorescent light in the dark. Yang Qing was still holding the automatic rifle that belonged to the guard. The guard was lying on the ground, motionless, with Yang Qing stepping on his head. It seemed like he was dead. "You? How did you?" Goodman stared at Yang Qing, dumbfounded. His mind was in a mess. Alice clapped her hands and smiled. "Mr. Yang is so awesome. It seems like we can return to the hotel to take a shower. Can Mr. Yang kill all these bad guys?" You're too kind. I just randomly fired a few shots. Who knew that the guard would hold his gun the wrong way? He died the moment I pulled the trigger," Yang Qing said with a sigh. How is that possible?" Goodman broke out in cold sweat. However, he was convinced. After all, he didn't think that Yang Qing could defeat these kidnappers. Yang Qing raised his head proudly. "Why not? I'll cover it up for you again." As he spoke, Yang Qing picked up the rifle in his hand again. He turned around and fired a series of shots at the darkness behind him. He didn't forget to blow a few rings of smoke from his mouth. His roguish look made Goodman roll his eyes. Ha, little goo, did you see that? It's just shooting. It's simple. Yang Qing turned around and patted Goodman's stiff shoulder while holding the gun in one hand. Goodman came back to his senses and shouted, Are you crazy? You're going to attract his companions over like this." Oh right, Director Yang, how did I become little goo all of a sudden?" Could it be that you're my sister-in-law?" "Sister-in-law? It doesn't sound too bad," Yang Qing said with a smile. At this moment, Lin Ruoshi walked out of the warehouse. Her footsteps were gentle as she stood in front of Yang Qing. She stared at Yang Qing silently. Under the dim light of the phone, Lin Ruoshi's hazy face carried a hint of coldness. Her pair of bright eyes that resembled autumn swans were filled with crystal-clear tears. "Baby Ruoshi, why are you?" Yang Qing also forgot to suck on the cigarette in his mouth. Looking at Lin Ruoshi's calm and beautiful face, his heart somehow felt heavy. "It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing to be able to kill the guards, isn't it?" Lin Ruoshi's tone was as flat as the cold wind on the ice field. "Is it fun to scare people? Do you think it's fun to keep people on tenterhooks for you?" I. Yang Qing opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he realized that he didn't know how to express his feelings and thoughts at this moment. It was as if there were hundreds of foreign languages and countless words in his mind, but none of them could help him. He couldn't help but be stunned. Lin Ruoshi didn't intend to listen to Yang Qing's reply. After looking at Yang Qing deeply, she took out her phone and walked out with the help of the light from the flashlight. Although he didn't understand the situation and couldn't understand the relationship between Yang Qing and Lin Ruoshi, Goodman, who had just been promoted to sister-in-law, hurriedly chased after her when he saw that Lin Ruoshi was about to leave. He shouted, "Ruoshi! Ruoshi! Don't be rash. If you walk out like this, you'll be easily discovered by the remaining guards." Lin Ruoshi turned a deaf ear as if she didn't hear Goodman's words at all. "It's fine." Yang Qing finally recovered from his petrified state. He turned around and followed Lin Ruoshi's direction and said, "No one will stop me." "How do you know?" Goodman asked suspiciously. Yang Qing glanced at him and said, "Because they're all dead." Goodman suspected that he had misheard, but when he saw that Yang Qing didn't look like he was lying, he felt that it was the truth. The Stern siblings, on the other hand, didn't seem to be afraid of anything. They happily held hands and followed behind Yang Qing. Seeing this, Goodman couldn't be bothered anymore. He immediately took out his phone and tried to widen his field of view as much as possible. Then, he followed Yang Qing and the others to explore the exit. At this moment, Yang Qing had already walked to Lin Ruoshi's side. Glancing at the woman whose face was as cold as a lake, the corners of his mouth slightly curled into a complicated smile. Before Lin Ruoshi could react, Yang Qing used his left hand to grab her right hand. "What are you doing?" Lin Ruoshi stopped and asked coldly. "I'm holding your hand and bringing you out," Yang Qing said with a smile. "You don't have to be so kind. I'm just an ordinary person. My life and death don't matter to me. Since you're so powerful, you can do whatever you want." Lin Ruoshi sneered. Yang Qing's face turned bitter. He looked like he was begging. He bent down and got closer to Lin Ruoshi's face. He lowered his voice and said, "My dear wife, don't be angry. It's my fault. I shouldn't have always been playing by myself and made you worry about me. I promise that I'll report to you first and bring you with me whenever I need to. I'll bring you when I need to eat, I'll bring you when I need to go out, I'll bring you when I need to go shopping, I'll bring you when I'm killing people, I'll bring you when I'm torturing people. Oh right, I'll bring you when I'm going out to pick up girls, okay?" Lin Ruoshi's ears were burning from the series of inexplicable words. She glared at Yang Qing with her almond-shaped eyes and couldn't maintain her cold expression anymore. She giggled and said, "Who wants to go to the toilet with you? You. Don't think too highly of yourself." "Hee, as long as you're not angry, dear." Yang Qing let out a long sigh of relief in his heart. Coaxing his wife was much more tiring than coaxing his lover. Sure enough, the maintenance fee of a legitimate married couple was also high. Fortunately, it was settled for the time being and a cold war was avoided. Although Yang Qing spoke very softly, Stern and Alice, who were walking closer, could still see the small details of their movements and expressions. The siblings kept winking at each other. Lin Ruoshi was also embarrassed. She had just felt that they were mushy, and now she was suddenly flirting with this man. She pinched the soft flesh on Yang Cheng's waist and let it go. Yang Cheng didn't feel any pain, but to cater to a woman's psychology, he pretended to be in pain and made a painful expression. He then smiled and said, "We don't have to look for the main door. We can just find our car and drive back to Paris. They won't park the car outside the warehouse. That's too low profile." Lin Ruoshi agreed. Stern and Alice, of course, didn't have any objections. As long as they could take a quick shower, they could do anything. At this moment, Goodman, who was walking slightly behind them and had been in a tense state, let out a tragic scream. "Ah! Help!" Chapter 499. Along with Goodman's miserable cries, the few of them turned around to look at him. The next moment, they saw Goodman hugging his head and curling up on the ground. His phone had already fallen to the ground. Under the dim light, they saw Goodman leaning against a large black object. In front of Goodman's feet, there was a black-clothed guard that they had seen before lying motionlessly on the ground. After the slightly frightened Lin Ruoshi understood what was going on, she knitted her brows and said with slight dissatisfaction, "Goodman, that person is dead." "Ah." Goodman slowly raised his head and took a careful look. He gulped and suddenly realized that the guard that scared him half to death was dead. "What's going on?" Goodman blinked his eyes. He was sure that this guard wasn't the same person who had died under Yang Cheng's feet. However, he couldn't understand why he was dead as well. Yang Chen walked forward and grabbed Goodman's shoulder. Pulling him up from the ground, he patted him twice and said smilingly, "Little sister-in-law, you did a great job. You found our car so quickly." "Wow, that's great, we can go back to the hotel immediately." Alice's face was full of happiness. She held Stern's arm and excitedly ran to the Bentley. She opened the door impolitely and took the lead to get in with Stern. Only then did Goodman realize that the black object he was leaning against was the Bentley that everyone was looking for. Before he could figure out what was going on, Goodman was pushed into the car by Yang Cheng and sat beside Stern and Alice. After realizing what was going on, Goodman immediately shouted, "Director Yang! I'm not sister-in-law. I'm not." I know. I won't call you sister-in-law anymore." "Sister-in-law." Yang Cheng chuckled and closed the door. Lin Ruoshi, who was about to get into the car, was blocked outside the door. She looked at Yang Cheng in confusion. "What do you mean?" "Honey, don't sit here. Sit next to me. I'll drive and you can sit in the front passenger seat." Yang Cheng blinked. "My sister-in-law is too annoying. You don't want to suffer all the way, do you?" Without waiting for Lin Ruoshi to say anything, Yang Cheng opened the front passenger door and pulled Lin Ruoshi in. Yang Cheng quickly got into the car, started the car, and turned on the headlights. This time, the whole warehouse was almost fully illuminated. The entire warehouse was about the size of 10 basketball courts. On both sides, there were dozens of neatly arranged steel warehouse doors. Some of them were filled with junk, while others were tightly locked. The warehouse looked a little old and had not been repaired for many years. There were many holes in the ceiling. It was just that there was no starlight or moonlight tonight, so it was pitch black. "What is that?" Goodman, who was sitting in the car, saw the corpses of 3 to 4 guards in black lying not far from the car. "Dead kidnappers." "Mr. Gu, are you afraid again?" Alice chuckled. Goodman quickly maintained his composure. He coughed twice and said, No, Miss Alice, you misunderstood. I'm just a little surprised. Why are these people dead all of a sudden? Did someone come to save us?" A strange expression appeared on Stern's handsome face. "Mr. Goodman, didn't Mr. Yang say that these people are all dead? Didn't you hear it?" "Him." Goodman thought about it carefully. Yang Cheng did mention that these people were all dead, but how did he know? Suddenly shocked, Goodman exclaimed, "Could it be Director Yang who killed them? Who else could it be other than him? We don't have guns, except for the one in Director Yang's hand." Stern turned on the lights in the car and took out a half-empty bottle of red wine. He was already pouring wine for Alice. The siblings began to enjoy themselves leisurely. Goodman looked at them blankly. His mind was filled with Yang Cheng's cheeky smile just now. He couldn't help but be stunned. Lin Ruoshi, who was sitting in front, naturally saw the corpses on the ground. However, it wasn't her first time seeing dead people since she got to know Yang Cheng. She wasn't too shocked. Instead, she pondered for a while and asked hesitantly, "When you fired randomly into the darkness just now, were you aiming at them?" Yang Cheng was fastening his seatbelt. When he heard Lin Ruoshi's question, he smiled and said, "It doesn't matter whether I aimed at them or not, as long as they're dead." "Where are we going now?" Lin Ruoshi asked again. "Back to Paris, of course. Do you know where we are now? And how are we going back?" Lin Ruoshi asked suspiciously. Yang Cheng nodded, as if it was a matter of course. "We should be near Romilly-sur-Seine in the southeast of Paris. It's about 2 hours away from downtown Paris. We can still make it if we rush to Paris for a sumptuous dinner." After that, Yang Cheng put the car into gear and stepped on the accelerator. The car roared and dashed towards the metal gate of the warehouse. Are you crazy? What are you doing?" No matter how calm Lin Ruoshi was, she couldn't take it anymore. Yang Cheng actually wanted to crash the metal gate in the distance. "Don't worry. Sit tight." Yang Cheng laughed. Suddenly, he extended his left hand that was holding the rifle out of the window and fired a clip at the edge of the metal gate. Sparks flew everywhere. Something that looked like a circuit box by the metal gate instantly exploded. Then, like a chain reaction, there was a violent explosion near the metal gate. Boom! With a loud bang, flames sprayed out, and the iron door was blown into pieces. Just when the sea of fire was wreaking havoc, the Bentley passed through the hole in the gate like a black lightning. Due to the speed of the car, the strong airflow around it prevented the fire from reaching the car. The people in the car only felt a little stuffy for a moment before everything returned to normal. Lin Ruoshi felt like she was in a Hollywood action movie. She had become the female lead beside the male lead. Her life was hanging by a thread, but in the end she survived a series of thrilling explosions. The feeling of narrowly escaping death made Lin Ruoshi's body slightly stiffen. She couldn't say a word. "Lunatic! Lunatic!" Goodman, who was sitting in the back of the car, almost dropped his jaw. He couldn't find any other words to express his opinion of Yang Cheng. On the other hand, Stern and his sister were cheering excitedly. Obviously, they felt that everything was very cool. After the Bentley rushed out of the warehouse, it came to a flat ground. Yang Cheng immediately stepped on the brake and stopped the car. Lin Ruoshi looked out of the window. Just as Yang Cheng had said, there was a wide river not far from the warehouse. If she wasn't mistaken, it was the famous Seine in France. Passing through the forest, she could see the lights of the city. As for whether it was Romilly-sur-Mer as Yang Cheng had said, Lin Ruoshi couldn't tell. Just when Lin Ruoshi was puzzled as to why Yang Cheng would stop the car, she saw that Yang Cheng was about to open the door and get out. "Yang Cheng, what are you doing?" Lin Ruoshi was anxious. She didn't know what this man was going to do. Was he waiting to be discovered if he didn't hurry back to Paris? Yang Cheng patted the back of his head and leaned back into the car. He smiled at Lin Ruoshi and said, "I'm sorry, I almost forgot again. I have to report first. Baby Ruoshi, don't worry. Aren't there other poor guys who were kidnapped in this warehouse? I'll be a good guy until the end and let them all go home." Lin Ruoshi widened her eyes. She would rather not have heard such a report from Yang Cheng. After Yang Cheng finished speaking, he got out of the car again and walked to the back of the car. He stood there with the rifle in one hand and took out his phone with the other hand to make a call. What is he doing?" Goodman was dumbfounded. He thought that he would be able to leave this broken place soon, but the car stopped the moment he got out of the warehouse. "Mr. Goodman, it seems like you have night blindness. Isn't Mr. Yang on the phone?" Alice said with a smile. "It's already so late. Why is he on the phone?" Goodman almost screamed. Stern scratched his ear and yawned. He couldn't get a signal in the warehouse just now, so he must be calling anxiously. At this moment, from the darkness on both sides of the warehouse, 2 jeeps with dazzling headlights dashed out. The engines roared as they rushed towards where Yang Cheng was standing. It's over. Their accomplices are here. Goodman was like a deflated balloon as he slumped onto the seat. Chapter 500. 2 modified Jeep Wrangler SUVs were painted in camouflage colors. Other than the drivers, there were 2 black-clothed kidnappers. One of the kidnappers was holding a rocket launcher, while the other was holding a Gatling gun that shocked the world. It looked like they were going to blast Yang Cheng's group and the cars into pieces. Yang Cheng didn't seem to notice anything. He only raised his head with a smile after he slowly finished typing the number and pressed the call button. Seeing that the 2 jeeps were only 100 meters away from each other, he raised the rifle in his hand. After all, the black-clothed men in the jeeps had received strict military training. Although they had the upper hand in the battle, they didn't let down their guard. The jeeps began to move forward in an irregular arc to prevent Yang Cheng from accidentally hitting them. The ones in charge of attacking had already pulled the trigger of their weapons. Bang! Bang! Smoke rose as 2 explosions sounded. The rocket launchers were like small missiles, leaving a white and red burning trail as they flew toward Yang Cheng and the Bentley at the same time. Tut! 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 Consecutive bullets were fired. It was impossible to tell whether Yang Cheng was shooting at the black-clothed men or the frenzied firing of the Gatling gun. The frenzied fire of the Gatling gun and the weak sparks of the rifle in Yang Cheng's hands formed a sharp contrast in firepower. Goodman, who was in the Bentley, didn't dare to look outside. He cried bitterly and wanted to run away, but he had no strength left in his body. Stern and his sister, on the other hand, clinked their glasses and drank their red wine affectionately. They didn't realize that there was a war outside at all. Lin Ruashi, who was sitting in the passenger seat, could clearly see the brutal confrontation outside through the rearview mirror. When she saw 2 missiles being fired toward the car and where Yang Cheng was, her heart jumped to her throat again. If it wasn't for her strong mental fortitude, she might have fainted on the spot. Damn you, Yang Cheng! How dare you say you won't make me worry? What's the difference between reporting and not reporting? At that critical moment, the men in black behind the 2 Gatling guns suddenly stopped attacking. The drivers of the 2 jeeps slumped onto their seat. The jeeps lost control and began to move in 2 different directions. The 2 men in black, who were responsible for firing the rocket launchers, didn't understand what was going on. They looked down at the same time and found that the bullets had penetrated their forehead. Red and white objects flew out. At the same time, the 2 rockets that were approaching Yang Cheng and the Bentley exploded when they were still 20 to 30 meters away. How is this possible? One of the men in black said to himself in French, as if he was in a dream. He didn't want to believe that the man standing alone not far away could accurately kill his companion in the blink of an eye. He didn't even know how he detonated the missile. The moment the rocket launcher exploded in midair, 2 shuttles of bullets passed through the flames of the explosion and hit the fuel tank of the unmanned jeep. Boom, boom! There wasn't much time for the remaining 2 to think. The jeep exploded in the fuel tank and burned into 2 fireballs. Even the rolling tires were blown into the sky. The 2 men in black screamed in pain. They jumped out of the car with their bodies covered in flames. However, the flames caused by the gasoline were not something they could withstand. The 2 burning men didn't struggle for long before they died on the river embankment. After taking care of the pursuers, Yang Cheng said a few words to his phone and then hung up. After thinking about it, Yang Cheng threw the rifle in his hand directly into the Seine River dozens of meters away. The rifle drew a high parabola and fell into the river. After doing this, Yang Cheng returned to the car. He took out a cigarette from his jacket pocket and smoked one. He then turned on the car lighter and lit it for himself. After taking a deep breath, Yang Chun happily licked his lips, started the car, and continued their journey. Goodman hugged his head and sat in the carriage for a good while. Realizing that he was fine, he raised his head in bewilderment and looked at the situation outside. Then, he looked at the siblings sitting opposite him and asked, What's going on?" Alice caressed her brother's cheek and said with a smile, "Mr. Goodman, your posture just now was really like a penguin. It was very cute. Those people were killed by Mr. Yang long ago. Didn't you notice it until now?" Goodman opened his mouth wide in disbelief. Being stared at by the unscrupulous siblings made him finally realize how embarrassed he was just now. He couldn't help but blush. He pretended to be calm and said, "I was really lucky, really lucky. But it's good that everyone is fine." Yang Qing, who had been driving for a while, realized that the atmosphere wasn't right. He turned his head and saw Lin Ruoshi sitting in the passenger seat staring at him coldly with a pale face. In the dark, Lin Ruoshi's expression made Yang Cheng's scalp tingle. My dear wife, what's with that expression? Did I do something wrong again?" Yang Qing frowned. He had just made a report. Did something go wrong again? Lin Ruoshi didn't answer. She turned her head to look outside the window and did what she was best at, staying silent. Depressed, Yang Cheng held the cigarette butt in his left hand and leaned against the window. He held the steering wheel with his right hand and glanced at Lin Ruoshi from time to time. The more he thought about it, the more he got a headache. They came all the way to Paris, but they still didn't talk to him like they were at home. It was fine at home. At least there was Mother Wang and Jinxiu, so it wouldn't be too boring. But there were only the two of them here. What was the point of staring at each other? Wasn't this just suffocating him to death? After a long while, Yang Chen let out a long sigh. He laughed at himself, but it was a dry laugh. He glanced at Lin Ruoshi from the corner of his eyes, but Lin Ruoshi didn't seem to care about him at all. He started to talk to himself, "Actually, I know that you must be blaming me for doing something like that again. Although you might not like it, Ruoshi, although you think that I'm very unreliable and dangerous, I actually know what I'm doing. How could I bear to let anything happen to you? I'm such a pervert, how could I bear to, right?" Lin Ruoshi didn't seem to hear anything. She looked at the dark and hazy night view outside the window. The car was still shuttling through the forest. Other than the black forest, nothing could be seen. Without a choice, Yang Qing could only continue talking and said, "When I came here in the afternoon, I looked at their equipment. Their rifle is the G36 produced by the German company HK. This automatic rifle is currently the most advanced in the world. And their clothes should be specially made, not official combat clothes. In other words, this group of people must be from an extremely high-end private terrorist organization. This kind of organization, unless they don't make a move, once they do, they are determined to die. I'm very curious about their final goal. Oh, right, when we rushed out of the warehouse, it's not that I didn't open the door properly. It's just that I saw an explosive device installed on the door. If you don't know the password, no matter how you touch the door, it will be detonated. The best way was to first use a bullet to detonate the door, then use the high speed of the car to drive the airflow to avoid the flames. So, I might have scared you. This group of people are also veterans with rich combat experience. Although we don't know where they came from, it's very clear that rushing into the darkness of the warehouse is not a wise decision. So, they have been guarding outside. After all, as long as we don't come out, we can't do anything in the warehouse. But they probably didn't expect us to rush out like this, so they drove the car to chase us. Originally, since we have already come out, we can't just leave this group of people who were also captured. You also heard from Stern that when they were kidnapped in the afternoon, they heard other people being locked up. I guess they are also aristocrats and rich people who are also participating in the Paris Fashion Week. At this point, Yang Qing finally saw Lin Ruoshi turn her face. Although she still didn't have any expression, at least she was looking at him. Yang Qing grinned. I just got out of the car and made a phone call. Guess where the call came from? Lin Ruoshi shook her head slightly. Although she was still very angry, she was very curious about what Yang Qing had done. The police call in France. As Yang Qing spoke, he took a drag of his cigarette and blew out a white puff of smoke. He then said, "There are so many people, we can't possibly bring all of them back. I told the police that I saw the criminals locking people in a warehouse by the river and asked them to come and save them. Although I didn't tell them their names and addresses, they must have heard the gunshots and explosions just now, so they will definitely come. Anyway, I killed all the people, so these people who were captured are no longer in danger. Just wait patiently." Hearing this, a trace of nervousness flashed in Lin Ruoshi's eyes. Finally, she couldn't help but say, "Won't you be discovered by the police if you do this? Won't they investigate the phone number?" Yang Qing was relieved. He finally opened his mouth and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I used a satellite network phone, not a cell phone number. The police won't be able to trace it in a short period of time. By the time they find it, I'll probably be back in China. Besides, I didn't do anything bad. I'm just saving people." Lin Ruoshi nodded. Suddenly, she realized that she had actually spoken to Yang Qing. Her pretty face turned red. She wanted to give him a cold war to express her dissatisfaction, but she quickly added, "Don't think that after explaining so much to me, everything will be fine. You always do things that scare people. You don't care about the feelings of the people around you at all." Yang Qing said helplessly, "If you ask me, I'll definitely tell you. But it's too late. They have already fired at us. I can't possibly explain to you first before taking action." Lin Ruoshi thought about it and felt that it made sense. In the end, she could only pout and snort coldly to cover up her embarrassment. Yang Qing suddenly found that his wife's embarrassed expression was strange. He couldn't help but touch Lin Ruoshi's face and cheeks when she wasn't paying attention. Chapter 501. Lin Ruoshi's skin was exquisite and smooth, just like the finest silk. Yang Qing enjoyed it very much. This sudden touch made Lin Ruoshi blush instantly. Yang Qing's action was as if he was teasing her like a little girl. What are you doing?" Lin Ruoshi said angrily. Fortunately, no one else saw it. She was the CEO of a multinational company, but her face was touched by a man like a little girl. Yang Qing laughed and said incongruously, "Oh, my dear Ruoshi, look ahead. We've arrived at the city. There's light. Do you want me to buy you something to eat first? A fast McDonald's? Wendy's? Or Burger King? Anyway, we're overseas. Eating some Western fast food can be considered as experiencing the life of a foreign civilian. Or go back to Paris for a better Western meal. It's up to you, haha." Lin Ruoshi clenched her teeth. This guy was changing the topic again. However, she suddenly thought of something and asked, "By the way, how do you know where Romilly-sur-Mer is? Have you been here before?" Yang Qing secretly thought that it was a close shave. Finally, he didn't insist on his touch and explained, "Although the driver who brought us here deliberately drove in the northeast direction at the beginning, it was mainly to confuse us, just in case. When night fell, he changed his direction to the southeast and purposely chose a forest path without any towns. It can be said that this is a very meticulous kidnapping. Even if they knew that we couldn't inform the outside world, they still did a lot of work to keep it secret. If it's conventional thinking, according to the driving route and time, we should have arrived at the area around Esply, northeast of Paris. However, this kind of trick can only fool ordinary people. It's still very difficult to fool me. So, I calculated the distance and should be arriving at Romilly-sur-Mer. Also, I felt the heavy water vapor in the warehouse just now. There was also the faint sound of a river, so I guessed that we should be passing through Romilly-sur-Seine. As for why I know these places, it's not because I've been here before. It's just that I memorized the world map." Memorized the world map? Even though Lin Ruoshi had seen many brilliant people in the business world, She couldn't quite understand how Yang Qing did it. She looked at Yang Qing for a while with a complicated expression. It was hard to imagine that this guy was her husband in name, and he was picked up from the market. Lin Ruoshi turned her head and looked at the bright night view of the city ahead. The car was about to enter the city. She muttered to herself, "Why is it that the more you explain, the more questions I don't understand?" Yang Qing pursed his lips and took another puff. He threw the cigarette but out of the window and said, "It's actually very simple. Don't treat me as a human. Just treat me as a monster. Wouldn't that explain everything?" "Don't talk nonsense." Lin Ruoshi suddenly raised her voice and reprimanded her. Yang Qing was stunned. He didn't understand why Lin Ruoshi had such a big reaction. "You." Lin Ruoshi also knew that she was overreacting, but she still said clearly, "You're not a monster. No matter what other people think of you, I don't think of you that way. You can't think of yourself that way either." Looking at the woman's beautiful eyes that were shining with seriousness, Yang Qing grinned. "Fool, you're the fool," Lin Ruoshi said seriously. Yes, you're a fool, and I'm also a fool. We're a fool couple." Yang Qing laughed and sped up the car toward Romilly-sur-Seine. In the 13th arrondissement of Paris, in an ordinary residential area, there were houses scattered among the sparse lights. Most of the houses here had decades of history. Most of them were exquisite and unique, showing the long history of the country. In one of the two-story buildings with gray walls and a red roof, a family of 3 was sitting around an oval dining table, enjoying bacon, mashed potatoes, and toast, which were all very ordinary home-cooked food. Under the warm light, a boy of about 10 years old with curly yellow hair put down the spoon in his hand and looked up at the tall man sitting next to him. "Dad, can we go to Disneyland on Sunday? Many kids in our class are going there." "Harry, don't mess around. Dad is very busy these days," Harry's mother said in a low voice, pretending to be angry. The burly man, Harry's father, had a full beard. He raised his hand to stop his wife from scaring his son. He turned around and smiled gently. "Dad has been very busy recently. After this month, Dad will accompany Harry to Disneyland to watch a flying car show, okay?" Harry pouted. "But there's never a time when I'm not busy." Hearing his son's aggrieved voice, a trace of pity flashed in the man's eyes. His wife, who was sitting next to him, also felt helpless and sad. At this moment, the man's phone on the table rang. The man looked at the caller ID, frowned, and picked up the call. "I'm Fodessa. What's the matter?" A hurried report came from the other side of the phone. "Deputy Director, we just received news from the police. The missing rich merchants and nobles were found in a warehouse by the Seine River in Romilly. According to the report, an anonymous witness provided us with the clue. We've asked the police to block the news and rescue the VIPs as soon as possible. However, many VIPs are angry and emotionally unstable." Fodessa was silent for a moment. "Have you found out the origin of the kidnappers?" "Yes. As expected, it was done by Apollo's subordinates, the realm of God. We saw the golden sun totem on the dead kidnappers. However, the background information of these people indicated that they belonged to the Cerberus organization. Based on the analysis, it's very likely that the organization has already submitted to the realm of God." "Cerberus?" A sharp glint flashed across Fodessa's eyes. "Isn't that organization on the verge of disbanding?" "That's what we thought before. However, it's obvious that the elites of Cerberus that we attacked previously were fake. The real core strength of Cerberus hasn't been destroyed." Hearing this, Fodessa clenched his fist. "Got it. Calm down the VIPs first. We can't let this matter get out of hand. I'll head over to the scene now." "Oh right, does Director Depnay know about this?" The staff on the other side of the phone hesitated for a moment before replying in a soft voice. "Director Depnay said that you should do as you see fit. You can meet him after you're done." Fodessa's face darkened. He took a deep breath and hung up the phone. Seeing that her husband didn't look well, the woman asked worriedly. Dear, did something happen? Fodessa then realized that he was at home. He forced a smile and said, Don't worry, I'll handle it. You guys continue eating. I have to go out. Having said that, Fodessa stood up and put on his coat. He was about to leave, but stopped after a few steps. Fodessa turned around and looked at his son, Harry, who was looking at him eagerly. With a loving smile, he said, Harry, I promise you that after this month, I'll take you to Disneyland. When you're done with your summer vacation, I'll take you to the Mediterranean for a vacation. We'll go on a cruise, okay? Really? The boy, who was on the verge of tears, was overjoyed. Fodessa nodded heavily, smiled at his wife, and turned to leave. At the same time, on the N4 motorway from Romilly to Paris, Yang Cheng and the rest in the Bentley were in a different situation. In the middle of the car, Goodman was holding a bag of McDonald's packages with a blank expression, lost in thought. Opposite him, the siblings, Stern and Alice, had also received a bag of McDonald's packages. However, the two of them were enjoying their chicken hamburgers. Just 10 minutes ago, Yang Cheng drove into a McDonald's at the edge of the city and bought a few bags of McDonald's packages. Naturally, everyone in the car got a share. Mr. Goodman, aren't you going to eat? Actually, the hamburgers are pretty good too, Alice said with interest. After all, they grew up in a big family and rarely came in contact with such cheap fast food. Therefore, the siblings were enjoying the food. Goodman said bitterly, I really don't know what he's thinking. How could he buy such a thing? How could Ruashi eat such cheap food? And how could she use this to serve the two of you? Stern didn't care about Goodman's words at all. After finishing the burger in his hand, he clicked his tongue and wanted more. Seeing that Goodman wasn't eating, he snatched the bag from his hand. Mr. Goodman, if you don't want to eat, give me your share too. Stern took out another hamburger from the bag and said with a smile. Yeah, give me the French fries too. McDonald's French fries are pretty good, Alice said happily. Goodman widened his eyes and looked at the pair of unscrupulous siblings. He was on the verge of tears. Although he felt that the food was too low-end, he wasn't hungry. At this moment, Lin Ruashi, who was abused in Goodman's eyes, was sitting on the passenger seat. She was holding the double beef patty cheeseburger that Yang Cheng had bought for her. She was hesitating and couldn't bring herself to eat it. Lin Ruashi couldn't remember if she had ever eaten a burger before. In the eyes of most people in Huaxia, this kind of food was considered foreign. Many people liked to sit in McDonald's or KFC and enjoy their meals. However, overseas, the biggest function of this kind of fast food was to buy and eat it quickly. Most people would only buy it when they drove by and wouldn't even get out of the car. After buying it, they would finish it in the car. There was nothing special about it. In terms of price, compared to Lin Ruashi's status, this kind of food was too cheap. Why aren't you eating? Your stomach was growling just now. Aren't you hungry? Yang Cheng was driving with one hand and chewing on the burger with the other. He asked in confusion when he saw that Lin Ruashi didn't open her mouth. Lin Ruashi bit her lips. It would be weird if she wasn't hungry. She hadn't eaten anything since she got off the plane. How could she not be hungry? Did you do it on purpose? Lin Ruashi asked. What do you mean? Lin Ruashi pointed at the thick beef burger in her hand. This burger is so thick. How am I supposed to eat it? Of course, open your mouth wide. Just like me, Yang Cheng said and took another big bite. But, Lin Ruashi found it hard to open her mouth wide to eat a burger like this. Yang Cheng said sourly, Yo, your stomach is growling, but you still have to look like a lady. Are you looking down on people who eat hamburgers? That's right, only a boorish person like me would eat this. So my darling Ruashi still has a bit of princess syndrome. You're the one with princess syndrome. Don't treat me like a child, there's no need to provoke me. Isn't it just eating a burger? Childish. Lin Ruashi felt very upset when she heard Yang Cheng's sarcasm. She glared at him hatefully, then turned her gaze back to the burger in her hand. In the end, Lin Ruashi simply closed her eyes, opened her mouth to the fullest, and took a bite. To be honest, the beef burger with cheese was very fragrant. Although it was easy to put on weight, it was hard to resist. Lin Ruashi's stomach was rumbling with hunger. After taking a bite, she couldn't help but take big bite. This was the first time Yang Qing saw Lin Ruashi eat with her cheeks bulging. Her originally beautiful oval face now looked like a bun face. Look at you. Look at how you've eaten. Yang Qing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After finishing the food in his hand, he reached out and scraped the corner of Lin Ruashi's mouth with his finger. Because she ate too fast, a lot of the white sauce remained on the corner of her mouth. Lin Ruashi saw the sauce on Yang Qing's finger that was scraped from the corner of her mouth. She wanted to jump out of the car. This was too embarrassing. However, the next scene made Lin Ruashi have the urge to kill herself. She saw that Yang Qing was very natural. He sucked the finger with the sauce in his mouth clean. Lin Ruashi was so embarrassed that she almost choked on it. Yang Chen also realized that this action was rather ambiguous, but he was thick-skinned, so he didn't think much of it. He looked at Lin Ruashi, whose ears had already turned red in the dark. Smiling evilly, he said, "What's wrong with that? It's not like we've never kissed before. If babe feels like you're at a disadvantage, I'll let you put some sauce on my lips, and you'll help me scrape and lick it." Lin Ruashi almost fainted. Is there a person who speaks so shamelessly? But she knew that she would be bullied if she said more. She could only continue to vent all her resentment on the burger in her hand and continue to eat. But this time, Lin Ruashi turned her back and didn't give Yang Qing any chance to touch her face. Yang Qing didn't make any more jokes. He also knew that Lin Ruashi was really hungry. Everything must have a limit, so he focused on the highway ahead. The Bentley drove quickly to downtown Paris. Chapter 502. More than an hour later, a dusty Bentley stopped at the entrance of the Sofitel Paris Hotel. This five-star hotel was located near the Madeleine Cathedral and Place de Concorde. Amidst the magnificent lights and retro architecture, it created an eye-catching and beautiful scenery. It was like a huge sculpture. Two Caucasian waiters were standing at the entrance with their heads held high. When they saw the Bentley driving in, they first put on a standard smile, but then their expressions turned blank. It was because the scratches on the car, as well as the dirt and dust on the car, were really puzzling. The waiters couldn't help but look at each other and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. This kind of luxury car wasn't rare outside the Sofitel Paris Hotel, but it was rare to see such an unkempt luxury car, as if it had just left the country road. However, before the two waiters could open the door for the owner of the car, a group of more than 10 men and women in formal attire suddenly rushed out of the hotel. They ran to the middle of the Bentley and opened the door in the middle compartment. "Director Gu, you're finally back." The man leading the group looked touched. He bent his waist and almost wiped away his tears. Goodman, who had tidied up his white suit, had returned to his usual elegant demeanor. He nodded in a dignified manner. As he got off the car, he turned around and made a please gesture to the stern siblings in the car. "Is that General Lin? God bless us. General Lin has returned safely?" The group of people chatted happily. Little did they know that a handsome man and a beautiful woman had gotten out of the car. "Hi," Stern greeted the group of people with a bright smile. He hugged his sister, Alice, and accepted the group's welcome without hesitation. "Director Gu. These two are." Someone looked at Goodman in confusion. Goodman coughed twice and said, "These two are Mr. Stern and Miss Alice from the Cromwell family, the Lord Protector of England. I was kidnapped by bandits this time and was lucky enough to escape with them. They happened to be staying in this hotel during the Fashion Week, so we came back together." Cromwell family. Those present were all senior executives of the European branch of Ulay International, and most of them were European natives. Naturally, they had heard of such an ancient and wealthy family, so they couldn't help but bow and greet them. They were even a little confused, as they wouldn't be able to meet such a person on a normal day. At this moment, everyone seemed to have forgotten that they were originally waiting to welcome the number one person in the company, the CEO Lin Ruoshi. That was why they had specially gathered together and waited in the hotel. Unexpectedly, not only did the CEO not pick up the call, but he also lost contact with Goodman. 2 hours ago, he received a call from Goodman saying that he had been kidnapped and had just escaped. The group of people hurriedly gathered in the hotel again, which led to the scene of them leaving in a hurry. The doors of the Bentley's driver's seat and front passenger's seat opened at the same time. Yang Qing alighted from the car and took a deep breath of the fresh Paris night air before stretching his body. As for Lin Ruoshi, she was a little sleepy in the car and had just tidied up her appearance. Now that she alighted from the car, she still looked a little sleepy and innocent. Her cheeks were a little flushed, and coupled with her beautiful and aloof appearance, coupled with her black silk dress, she looked like a dark elf from a Western fantasy story. The beautiful scene immediately made the group of people outside the hotel hold their breath. Even the tourists who happened to pass by the hotel stopped to admire her for a moment. Seeing a group of people blocking the car and staring at her in a daze, Lin Ruoshi immediately understood that they were her company's European subordinates. Seeing them in such a daze, she naturally felt a little uncomfortable and couldn't help but frown. Seeing Lin Ruoshi alight, Goodman quickly squeezed through the crowd and shouted, "Spread out, spread out! Don't block General Lin. Do you hear me?" Hearing the reprimand, the group of executives suddenly came to a realization. Isn't this the CEO that we only see in photos and videos? Why is she even more beautiful in real life than in photos? Hello, General Lin. The group of people immediately spread out and made way for Lin Ruoshi. Lin Ruoshi took a deep breath and opened her eyes again. Her original languid demeanor was nowhere to be seen. It was as if she had returned to the headquarters of Unveil International. She glanced at the crowd, and the imposing aura that she had accumulated over the years made everyone's heart tremble. I don't know how you usually work, but based on your performance just now, I can fire all of you without any hesitation. Lin Ruoshi said calmly, "You are the managers. Don't make me think that you should be the ones being managed." The group of people broke out in cold sweat. Although Lin Ruoshi's words didn't contain any anger, it was these emotionless words that made them feel a chill from the bottom of their hearts. "Ruoshi, don't be angry. I think these people are too excited. After all, it's rare for you to come to Europe. We don't get to see each other usually, and many of them are your admirers. Of course they are excited. Speaking of which, they are also worried about us. Let's forget about it this time." Goodman tried to smooth things over. Lin Ruoshi didn't say much. She directly passed through the crowd and entered the hotel. Goodman heaved a sigh of relief and glared at his subordinates. Then, he smiled at the stern siblings and said, "Your servants should be in the hotel now, right? I wonder where they are now. Do you need me to inform them?" "Servants?" Stern laugh. "Mr. Goodman, we don't have such a grand entrance. This time, it's only the two of us on this trip to Paris. We didn't bring anyone else." Goodman was stunned. He couldn't believe his ears. However, the stern siblings didn't intend to explain much. They directly followed behind Lin Ruoshi and entered the hotel. Just as Yang Qing, who was yawning and planning to return to the hotel to rest, was about to enter, he was stopped by a staff member of Unveil International. "You're the driver, right? Go and park the car." "Do you want us to park the car?" the staff member ordered. Yang Qing scratched his head helplessly. He didn't intend to explain anything. It wasn't a big deal to stop the car. However, before Yang Qing could turn around, the staff member's head was hit by Goodman. The staff member scolded, "Are you a pig? This is Director Yang who accompanied General Lin. Didn't you see who was accompanying General Lin? Quickly apologize to Director Yang." This reprimand stunned the group of Unveil's executives once again. In fact, no one noticed Yang Qing at all. Compared to the handsome stern siblings and Lin Ruoshi's stunning appearance, Yang Qing was too suitable for the title of driver. Who would have thought that such a vulgar, average-looking, and lazy man would be a director on the same level as Goodman? Sigh, sister-in-law, forget it. He doesn't know me. Yang Qing smiled and patted Goodman's shoulder. He then stuffed the car key into Goodman's hand. Since you're so polite, I'll leave the car to you. I'll go in first. Goodman nodded with a flattering smile. No problem. Director Yang, just let me know if you need anything. Just treat this as your home. Wow, your attitude has become much better. No wonder Ruoshi made you the director here. You're indeed smart. Yang Qing, of course, knew the reason why Goodman was so flattering. After all, he had personally experienced a life-and-death situation. He clearly knew that Yang Qing had killed a group of black-clothed men. Goodman felt guilty. Whenever he thought about how the man in front of him had single-handedly killed a group of ferocious kidnappers, he couldn't bring himself to disobey. He could only bow and nod. The group of Yulei's executives were dumbfounded. They couldn't understand at all. Even if Yang Qing was a director on the same level as Goodman, why would Goodman humble himself and even be called sister-in-law? Could it be that even in the company, there was a difference in treatment between officials from the capital and local officials? Just as Yang Chen was about to walk into the hotel, the sound of police sirens could be heard not far from the hotel. Furthermore, 3 police cars were heading towards the direction of the hotel. Chapter 503. When the police car drove to the entrance of the hotel in a domineering manner, it came to an abrupt stop. Several tall police officers in police uniforms got out of the car quickly. One of them was a short and fat police officer with slightly white hair. He was wearing a trench coat and was walking at the front. After taking a glance at the Bentley at the entrance, he shifted his gaze to everyone standing at the entrance with a solemn expression. The moment he saw Yang Qing, this slightly older Caucasian police officer revealed a rather proud smile and walked directly to Yang Qing. "Are you Mr. Yang from Huaxia?" asked the Caucasian police officer. Frowning, Yang Qing glanced at Goodman, who was at the side. Since the police came to their doorstep so quickly, it was hard for him not to suspect that someone had leaked the news to them. Goodman wasn't stupid either. He quickly waved his hand and said with an innocent face, "Director Yang, I didn't call the police. I really don't know anything." Yang Qing then turned around and smiled. "It's me. Is there anything you need from me, Mr. Police? I'm Bolton from the Anti-Terrorism Unit of the Paris Police. We seriously suspect that Mr. Yang is closely related to a kidnapping and shooting case that happened 2 hours ago near Romilly-sur-Mer." Officer Bolton took a document from the police officer beside him and said, "This is the arrest warrant. Mr. Yang, please follow us back to the police station immediately to assist in the investigation." Yang Chen looked to his left and right. There were at least 10 or so police officers glaring at him. He couldn't help but smile. "Officer Bolton, can you let me handle some personal matters first? You're going to scare everyone by making such a big fuss. We can't help it. The scene of a gunfight is very cruel. We have to be cautious with Mr. Yang," Bolton said with a sneer. "If Mr. Yang wants to hire a defense lawyer, please follow us back to the police station. Don't worry, we won't treat foreign guests disrespectfully." After that, Bolton signaled with his eyes. 2 police officers went behind Yang Qing and grabbed Yang Qing's hands before sending him to the car. "Stop! What are you doing?" Everyone turned around and saw Lin Ruoshi, who had just entered the hotel, run out of the door and shouted to stop the 2 police officers. Lin Ruoshi was originally waiting for Yang Qing and Goodman in the living room. She didn't expect the police cars to arrive so suddenly. Worried that something might have happened to Yang Qing, she quickly ran out. She didn't expect to see Yang Qing being shoved into the car. "Ruoshi, don't be rash. This officer has an arrest warrant. We can't stop him from taking Director Yang away." Goodman immediately stood in front of Lin Ruoshi and said, It seems like the officers have misunderstood Director Yang about the kidnappers. They want to take him away now. We can find a lawyer for Director Yang immediately. He'll be fine. The senior executives of Ulay International also knew that this was the time to show their loyalty. Although they didn't know what was going on, they immediately shouted that they would help Lin Ruoshi solve this problem and wouldn't let anything happen to Yang Qing in Paris. Yang Qing turned around and winked at Lin Ruoshi, who was behind the crowd. He gave her an on-sheen look before entering the police car. Lin Ruoshi was stopped by a group of people. In the end, she could only watch as Yang Qing was taken away by the police officers. The 3 police cars left as quickly as they came. Watching the red taillights of the 3 police cars disappear into the street not far away, Lin Ruoshi stood in silence for a long time before saying coldly, "Goodman, find me the best lawyer in Paris immediately. I must see Yang Qing back before dawn tomorrow." Goodman's face was covered in sweat. He gestured for Lin Ruoshi to calm down and smiled apologetically. "Ruoshi, don't worry. I'll handle this matter personally. Director Yang saved my life, so I can't let anything happen to him. You must be tired. Go back to the hotel room and rest. I'll handle this matter well." Although Lin Ruoshi still felt that something wasn't right, she knew that she was unfamiliar with Paris and couldn't do things as easily as Goodman did. Thus, she could only listen to Goodman and return to the hotel to rest. However, her mind was filled with Yang Qing's matter, so it was impossible for her to fall asleep. On the other hand, Yang Qing, who was being brought to the police station, didn't seem to be a suspect. Along the way, he chatted with the police officers in fluent French about the fashionable girls he saw on the street, which made Bolton's face turn gloomy. He wished he could seal Yang Qing's mouth with tape. 10 minutes later, Yang Qing was brought into the office building of the Paris police station. Although it was late at night and most of the police officers had already gotten off work, it was still brightly lit. Yang Qing's hands were handcuffed. 2 strong police officers escorted him into an elevator in the center of the building with Bolton. On the control panel of the elevator, apart from the buttons for the floor, there was also a numeric keypad. After Bolton's chubby fingers quickly pressed a long string of numbers on the keypad, the interior of the elevator turned red. Then, the elevator began to descend. On the control panel of the elevator, there wasn't any indication of the underground floor. TSK. Officer Bolton, I didn't know that your station had an underground base," Yang Qing said as he looked around with great interest. Bolton was having a headache with this unsuspecting suspect. He curled his lips and said, "Mr. Yang, I admire your calmness, but you talk too much." Roughly 30 seconds later, the elevator stopped. After the doors slowly opened, a metallic corridor appeared in front of them. The entire space was illuminated by white LED lights installed in the gap. At first glance, it looked like a scene from a sci-fi movie. On both sides of the corridor, there were some rooms separated by tempered glass. All kinds of high-precision instruments took up most of the space. On the wide LCD screens, there were all kinds of complicated data and some external surveillance videos. There were only 1 or 2 staff members in white robes operating in each room. It was impossible to hear what was going on inside from the other rooms. Yang Qing was escorted by 2 police officers as he followed Bolton through the long corridor. Finally, they arrived at an alloy door at the end. Bolton pressed his palm on the fingerprint detector next to the door. After the scan was completed, the alloy door immediately opened. Bolton turned around and gestured to the 2 police officers. They immediately let go of Yang Qing and turned to leave. "Mr. Yang, please come in." Bolton's expression was even colder than before. He exuded a fierce aura that was in stark contrast to his fat body. Yang Qing looked at him with a faint smile. "Mr. Bolton, you look much more pleasing to the eye now." As he spoke, he stepped into the room. This was a square interrogation room that was more than 100 square meters made of alloy. There were cameras scattered all around, and there were passages leading to other places in all 4 directions. At this moment, a tall man with yellow curly hair was sitting behind a table in the middle of the room. Beside him were two French soldiers who were armed with live ammunition and were dressed as anti-terrorist special forces. Bolton walked to the man and saluted him solemnly. Reporting, Deputy Director. The suspect, Yang Qing, has been brought here. Thanks for your hard work, Bolton. The man nodded at Bolton before looking at Yang Qing. Mr. Yang, you can sit down. Let's have a good talk. Yang Qing didn't stand on ceremony. He walked to the man. Although he was handcuffed, it didn't stop him from pulling out a chair and sitting down. A glint flashed across the man's eyes. Obviously, Yang Qing's indifferent attitude was enough to show that he wasn't an ordinary person. I'm not sure if Mr. Yang has heard of it. We, the Directorate General of Foreign Security of France, are also known as the Seventh Bureau. In a sense, we're similar to the National Security Bureau of Huaxia. I'm Fodessa, the Deputy Director of the Seventh Bureau. Bolton, who brought Mr. Yang here, is my attendant. Based on his appearance, he's the leader of the anti-terrorism team of the Paris police station, Fodessa introduced. Yang Qing revealed an expression that said, I see. It wasn't that he didn't know about the Seventh Bureau. It was just that the French Security Bureau was too inexperienced compared to the world's most cutting-edge FBI, Britain's MI5, Russia's KGB, and Israel's Mossad. The Seventh Bureau was established by the French hero of World War II, General Charles de Gaulle. Although it had a long history, the speed of its development was indeed not commensurate with France's international status. It was considered an ordinary national secret security organization, unlike the American FBI, which had a special ability organization like Blue Storm. Other major spy organizations also had special forces, but France was completely ordinary people. Although I'm not familiar with it, I've heard of it before, Yang Qing answered honestly. Very well. Fodessa could tell that Yang Qing was being honest. He took out a photo from his pocket and placed it in front of Yang Qing. Mr. Yang, you shouldn't be unfamiliar with this, right? Chapter 504. In a business suite of Hotel Sofitel. After settling Lin Ruashi's accommodation, he ordered his subordinates to prepare for the upcoming fashion week. Goodman, who had just returned to his room, threw his white suit on the bed. Then, he collapsed on a soft leather sofa as if he had lost all his bones. Beside the sofa was an exquisite wooden short table. A lamp illuminated half of the room. The spotlessly white lampshade was spotless. Goodman rested for less than a minute before he opened his eyes again. Under the yellow light, he expressionlessly turned his head to look at the short table beside him. On the table, there was already a folder without any stickers. Goodman picked up the folder, opened it again, and took out a few photocopied documents. Taking one out, Goodman pinched it with both of his hands. His gaze turned gloomy as he looked at the content on it. This piece of paper was a copy of a marriage certificate, and the photo of the owner of this marriage certificate could also be clearly seen from the copy. The woman was indifferent without the slightest hint of a smile, while the man was grinning with a comical sense of nervousness. It was the photo of Lin Ruashi and Yang Qing when they received their marriage certificate. Lin Ruashi. Do you think I, Goodman, am a fool? Do you think I wouldn't know your relationship with that country bumpkin just because you didn't tell me? Ha ha, ha ha. So what if you can kill someone? Are you looking down on me and humiliating me? Who do you think you are? Lawyer? Of course I will. But tomorrow morning, you definitely won't be able to see that stinky mutton skewer seller. Goodman's expression was a little twisted. The corner of his mouth twitched and his hands were trembling as he held the paper. After he finished talking to himself, he picked up his phone and dialed a number. Mr. Goodman, it's time to get off work, a man joked on the other end of the phone. Lawyer Charmo, I have a friend who entered the police station 10 minutes ago. I need you to do something for him. Goodman squinted his eyes and said coldly. I knew it wouldn't be anything good. But since my employer needs it, I can only make a trip to the police station. What's the name of Mr. Goodman's friend? What crime has he committed? His name is Yang Qing. He's from Huaxia. His crime is murder, Goodman said. Lawyer Charmot was silent for a moment before he said with an embarrassed smile, "What an unfortunate fella. But rest assured, this is not a problem for the ace lawyer of Paris, Charmot." "I think you've misunderstood me," Goodman smirked. "I didn't ask you to bail him out." Charmot grunted from the other end, obviously not understanding what this meant. "What I want to ask of you is not to save him, but to convict him." Goodman's eyes were filled with coldness as he smiled. "I believe that it shouldn't be difficult for Lawyer Chalmers to convict Huaxia of murder in Paris, France. After all, he has indeed been arrested by the police." Charmot only replied after a long time, "Oh, Mr. Goodman, you're really a special client. But I like it. All right, I understand your request. Remember, don't leave any traces." "This has nothing to do with me," Goodman added. Charmot laughed on the other end of the phone. "Of course I didn't receive any calls. I'm going to seek justice." At the same time, in the underground interrogation room of the Paris police station, Yang Qing was staring at the photo in front of him with a helpless smile. The photo that Fodessa placed in front of Yang Qing was the golden sun totem that Yang Qing had seen before. Moreover, it was taken from the dead men in black. Yang Qing touched his forehead. He had roughly figured out what was going on. Initially, he thought that if the police were investigating this kidnapping case, they wouldn't have found him in such a short time. However, if this case had been investigated by the 7th Bureau from the very beginning, he could have been tracked down even if he had used a satellite phone to call the police. After all, the technology involved was not on the same level. Yang Qing didn't plan to hide anything. He nodded and said, "As you know, I'm the one who called the police." Fodessa's gaze was a little gloomy. He asked, "Then, those dead kidnappers must have something to do with Mr. Yang, right?" "That's right. I killed them all," Yang Qing said honestly. The interrogation process was so smooth that Fodessa felt that the situation was not as simple as it seemed. Due to the lack of time, although they had found out something unusual about this Huaxia man's background, they couldn't get any concrete information. Fodessa knocked his fingers on the table. After a moment of silence, he said, "The dead kidnappers in the warehouse were originally members of a terrorist organization called Cerberus. Every one of them was a combatant who had been baptized by gunfire. Before each of them died, they didn't even manage to fire a single shot. Their vitals were pierced through the middle of their brows, temples, and other places, even when they were wearing helmets. Judging from the situation at the scene, it should have been done in a dim environment. Mr. Yang, if what you said is the truth, then I have to say, you're really a dangerous person." Yang Qing shrugged and said, "Maybe. But what I did should be considered as self-defense. It should be justifiable in the eyes of the law. I don't think you're going to lock me up in a cell or execute me on the spot like a criminal, right?" Fodessa snorted coldly. "Self-defense is a right given to ordinary citizens. From what I see now, Mr. Yang can't be an ordinary citizen. I can totally suspect that a dangerous person like you is also a member of a terrorist organization. In fact, you're even scarier than Cerberus." Yang Qing sighed. He wanted to go back to the hotel to sleep after the interrogation, but now it seemed that things were much more troublesome. "Then what do you want to do, Deputy Director?" Yang Qing smiled. "You said it yourself, all these are just suspicions. Even if I'm detained, there's a time limit. When my lawyer comes, I can't be kept here without any evidence. I advise Deputy Director to let me go. I've saved many VIPs. This should be considered as a favor, right?" Just when Fodessa was about to say something, Bolton, who was standing silently at the side, received a phone call. The ringtone rang. Bolton cast an apologetic look at Fodessa before picking up the phone. He asked solemnly, "What's the matter? Didn't I tell you that I'm interrogating an important suspect?" It's like this, Team Leader Bolton. Lawyer Charmo from Gordon Law Firm is calling. He has important information to provide to the police. It's about the suspect, Hua Xia, reported the police officer on the other end of the line. After listening, Bolton hung up the phone and immediately relayed the situation to Fodessa. Fodessa sighed heavily and looked at Yang Qing with a complicated expression. I didn't expect Mr. Yang's lawyer to come faster than expected. If that's the case, let's go out. Of course, Yang Qing didn't have any objections. He didn't expect the lawyer to come so soon either. However, the next moment, Yang Qing revealed a trace of doubt and turned to look at the alloy door behind him. Screech! The alloy door suddenly opened, and a few figures rushed into the interrogation room,